What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another live stream. The only difference is we're not playing straight pull today. We're going to review two more of my APA matches that I have. And after these two, I have two more that I'll do at a later date. I'm actually off of APA all this week. I wasn't needed on Monday and I wasn't needed tonight. So that at least gave me some time to be able to try to catch up with some of these live streams. Let's see here. It's weird when I don't like having announcements that I would want to be able to start the stream off. It's almost like, well, let's just get to the matches and just get going. When usually I like to try to chit chat with everybody, see what everybody's been up to, let everybody know what I've been up to, and whatnot. But at the very least, we can say hello to everybody that's in the room here. We have Raheem Carter, Rogers Randoms. How's it going? Cue ball control sometimes. You want to know how do I feel about pointing to the position you want the cue ball to land at when playing your run to 100? I don't have any problem with doing that every once in a while. I think the past couple of streams that I've done during straight pull, though, I've just been more focused on trying to, do a high run rather than trying to be as instructional as I can be. So that way I'm not distracted on being instructional versus focusing on a high run. So I can certainly try to figure out a way to balance the two and try to be at least a little bit more instructional at the same time. So we'll see. Like that's something I really don't have an issue with. It's something that I do all the time, or I did all the time when I was doing 9-ball Ghost. I just try to predict where I want the cue ball to end up for a particular pattern or whatever. So doing that in straight pull really shouldn't be that much of an issue. Speaking of straight pull, though, practice sessions have been decent lately. The last time I talked about my practice sessions in the straight pull, how I haven't been able to come relatively close to beating my 79. I think the closest I've gotten is like 50. But yesterday, I managed to put up a 71, which I was pretty proud of. I have it recorded. I'm not sure if I'm gonna publish it because it's not better than a 79. If I did publish it, it would just be almost in its raw content. I wouldn't probably bother with trying to put up a cue ball diagram, explain where I'm hitting, track the score, or anything like that, because that's just extra work for something that's not really like a milestone. But to finally see another 70 was very refreshing. And then earlier today, I managed to put up a wait. So what was it? Yesterday I said I put up a 71, and then today I managed to put up a 70. And that 70 might be a little controversial because I was able to call a ball out of a rack. I didn't bother shooting the break ball because I didn't have an angle to shoot the break ball in and hit the rack. So I just shot at the rack and called a predictable ball out of the rack, and the ball went in, and I continued my run. And then there was a small spot in there where you can barely tell if the cue ball landed in the rack, which is what I was going for. And I have to like get down at eye level to see that part of the cue ball overlaps the racking line, which allows me to take cue ball in hand in the kitchen, which is what I was going for that particular run. So yeah, like there's been twice so far where I finally hit 70. And the 71 basically means that I made the break ball and didn't get a decent spread and didn't have a shot. So therefore I couldn't continue. And then a 70 means that I missed the break ball when I was on the actual 70. So hopefully I can keep that consistency up. And what I mean by that is I didn't just go into my garage, do one rack, and it turned out to be a 71 or a 70 for today. There still is a couple of failure racks in there as I'm kind of like warming myself up to the game. So if I can keep that up, then hopefully I can do something like that on a live stream rather than just keep doing recorded videos of me breaking my personal best. I think it would be awesome if I can break my personal best on a live stream, let alone score 100 on a live stream. But that's how that's been going there. Let's see. Craig, how's it going? Ron Johnson, good to see you. Buddy Holly, congratulations on the sponsorship. Thank you very much, man. If you see in the pinned comment above, I do have a sponsor code, LilChris10. So if you were to check out onboardsportswear.com, Onboard Sportswear is my sponsorship. They make wonderful apparel. They actually make the same types of jerseys and mid-layers that they do for the Mosconi Cup. And so if you decided that you wanted to purchase any of their stuff for like maybe like if you have want to get some team shirts for any of your league teams or whatever, you can certainly use my discount code for a 10% off of your purchase. Now, as far as my exact design that I've shown in my last live stream, as far as I know, they are working on making a US website, which is where you'll find myself and other US sponsored players' designs that you can actually buy from. I think that's supposed to be sometime in July. I'm not entirely sure, but I think that the last time I remember speaking to Nate about that, I could have sworn he told me it was going to be sometime in July that like each one of our sponsored designs will be available on the US site when that is publicly released. When I find out more about it, I'll be sure to let y'all know. Let's see, who else is in here? Bob Francis, Dangerfield 33. Do I ever play in singles tournaments in APA? I've tried. I've told a story before about how I kind of got screwed over when I qualified for regionals because 2 years, or was it a year and a half ago or 2 years ago when I played some singles boards. I qualified for 8-ball and I supposedly qualified for 9-ball when I for the regional event. And then if I win the regional event, then I get to go to Vegas for the national event. For 9-ball, it's a short and simple story. I wasn't actually supposed to play on the singles board to qualify for regionals because I wasn't active on a 9-ball team. So all I was able to do was get my money back for the entry fee for that board. For the 8-ball one though, when I was qualified, this was during the year that they finally decided to stop sending packets in the mail about the regional event. And the only reason why I found out about how I missed the regional event that I qualified for is because people that were supposed to go with me, or whether we were going together, or people from my area, we were all going. They were texting me wondering where I was at. Well, unfortunately, I was at home sick. Wasn't sure if I had COVID at the time, but I was sick. And I ended up missing it, but I also didn't even know that it was happening at that time. And I later found out that I was supposed to have received an email about it. So I go and look through all of my emails, and I find one that was a month old from the date of the regional tournament. And in that email is the information is available by clicking on a picture in that email that takes you to a website to where you finally dig down and find out where it's going to be, when it's going to be. So it was a little cryptic at the time. And I was trying to figure out, what were my alternatives? Could I possibly go participate in another regional event, or whatever, or am I just, SOL? And I just chalked it up to being SOL. And then this, the previous year, I get a text message or a DM on Facebook from one of my followers saying, "Good luck at regionals." I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't even play on a board. I'm not qualified to play in regionals for that particular year. So he sends me a screenshot of the bracket. Lo and behold, there's my name. And so the only thing I can conclude for that is the year that I missed from being sick carried over to the next year. And I had no clue that they were going to do that. So when I saw the bracket, and unfortunately this time for that particular weekend, I had to work. So like I was going to miss it any other way. But had I known that my previous qualification was going to carry over to the next year, and I knew about the date, then I obviously would have tried to schedule to have that day off or not work on that weekend and then go play. But so when I saw the messages and stuff, again, I went back to my emails and found another one that's a month old, and it's just very cryptic the way they send those emails. It's not very obvious, and then let alone personally, I would just want, that you should be reminded a week in advance as well. Like they can send you a monthly reminder, but they should also do a week in advance as well. But if they're not going to do that, all I can do is chalk it up to lessons learned, right? So I did try to play on another board this year, I got all the way to the finals. I was up 4-0 in a race to 5-4, and I lost 4-4. So one of my other locals gets a chance, and that was a nice lesson for me to learn about why did I lose, And the only thing I chalked it up to was the whole time I played that board against everybody. I was playing against a bunch of fives and sixes, and the fives were tough. But I still managed, and the reason why I found out that I was managing is because I was playing very, very conservatively. Very conservatively. I wasn't trying to break and run the tables or nothing. I would break, analyze the table, play defensive shots, make my opponents kick, get ball in hand, then run the table. Very, very conservatively. When I got to the final, and again, I played very conservatively when I got up 4-0, and then I switched. I switched into predator mode. It's like, let's close this out. Let's finish this. And ultimately, being in that mode, I missed some key shots. Some key shots that I missed caused me to scratch. My opponent was able to run out. So the first key shot that I missed, I went for a shot that I shouldn't have. I scratched. My opponent ran out. All right. So now it's 4-1. Next rack, same thing. I go for a shot that I probably shouldn't have. I should have played a defensive shot that was there. I just didn't. Scratched. My opponent runs out. 4-2. My opponent breaks and runs. 4-3. Hill to hill. And then in the last match, it was pretty much like just a patiently waiting to break up your stuff kind of match, because his stuff was tied up with my stuff, and I'm trying to maneuver my balls to where I can make them and then possibly break the stuff out. And finally, I actually see that he's got a pattern to where he could finish the game if I let him. So what ended up happening was I tried to play a defensive shot that takes him away from being able to utilize that pattern and is forced to play some sort of combo, which basically disrupts the pattern that he has. Well, I failed at playing the safety, and he was in position to play the pattern that allows him to get out, and he got out and won. All right, so my lesson learned there was, when you're that far ahead, if I look at the way that I played that got me where I was, there was no reason for me to change strategies and basically like go for the kill. I should have just kept playing the same exact way, and I probably would have won 5-0. Probably. I'm not saying for sure, but probably. So it was a real good lesson learned. Very very humbling experience to have. And so yeah, we'll just have to wait until next time to make sure that I do the same, or not do the same thing, but qualify for next time. All right, let's see here. That was a long-winded answer to that question. Who else is in here? Hey, what's going on in the practice room? How's it going? Adam Noonan, Wolvie, Ray Jenkins, Tabogo Mogotzi. I hope I said that correctly. John B, how's it going? Let's see. Jeff J, Chris Kearse, and I think the names are starting to repeat after that. Okay, let's see, what's this here? It says you have this is from Tabogo Magotsi. I hope I'm saying that correctly. It says you have a problem that you live in the tavern where you are renting, and there is a pool table there. Queues ain't in proper shape, and I'm thinking of buying my own queue. Any suggestion, guys? The only suggestion anybody should be able to make to you is get the one that you can afford and get the one that you're gonna like. Right? Queues come in, all different prices, all different designs, made from different types of materials. Some materials feel different than others. Some, whether or not if some perform better than others, that's always going to be a debate between pool players and stuff. But there's no universal answer for me to say like get a Viking or get a Valhalla or get a McDermott or get the I can spout off like bunches of name brands. Whether or not if they're available in your area or not, that's one thing. But it's not going to be like anything that's going to all of a sudden be like your magic bullet and you're going to start shooting like a professional or anything. You just have to go out there and try things out, try different types of cues. Of course, like I said, cues that you can afford, and then cues that you like the way they look. Because after the way they look, you're certainly going to want to hopefully like the way they feel when you play. and then just be able to go from there. I mean, queues go as cheap as I think I've seen them as low as $50, and then they go all the way up into the thousands of dollars. So it's just going to be on, what's your budget really. That's all it really is going to matter. Okay, so let's see here. There's a new feature that I certainly want to try to use on YouTube. And normally the way this is going to work is we're going to, I'm going to eventually switch what y'all are looking at, and we're going to be looking at a match. And after the match, I switch back to this view here and kind of chit chat with everybody as I prepare to review the next match. But YouTube has added something to where I can play an ad during my live stream, and I actually want to give that a try. Meaning that I want to know what y'all see or what happens. I'm not going to do it often, right? Because I know nobody likes to look at ads. But it's a new feature that I certainly want to test out. I want to see how it works. It's not like I'm going to be spamming y'all with ads like every so often. I'll be looking for key moments where it's like, hey, I think watching a commercial here would be appropriate. It's the same thing that I do when I go back and rewatch everything, and I try to strategically place ads in like a dead spot of the live stream, and then that way it can just carry on from there. So what'll probably end up happening is when I'm done reviewing the first match, and right before I switch to this view, it'll be like, and now a word from our YouTube ad or whatever, and then I'll click a button and we'll see what happens from there. Now, having said all that, let's switch over to the match. So we're going to do this. Okay, and I have to fix my camera to that, so hopefully y'all can see me. So there. I don't know if anybody saw one of my recent posts about these new lights that I have that are that are surrounding my camera, because I also have studio lights in the corner of my room. But these lights that I've got here that are sitting on top of my monitor surrounding the webcam are amazing. Because look what happens when I turn them off. Look how dark it is now. Even with this light being up here, I think I would have to scoot back for you to be able to see me better. When I have these turned on, I mean, like, look how much of a difference that is. Like, that's amazing. I really, really like that. All right. Now, so if anybody's new to this, what we're doing here is I have matches from my APA pool league of myself, and with my opponent's approval, they allow themselves to be seen in the match as well. So whether you see them beat me or me beat them, what we try to do, or what I try to do in these matches here, is provide live commentary as to what I think my opponent is thinking, and then of course what I try to remember what I'm thinking at the time. And then if I make mistakes, then hopefully we can go back and the people that are in the chat can be interactive and give suggestions on maybe what I should have done, because any types of mistakes that I make here, and I'm not talking about just by missing shots. I'm talking about choosing a better pattern or anything that I think that would allow me to play better. And if any of the viewers have the same types of issues, then hopefully what we conclude after retrospecting every decision that happens here, it helps them play better as well. All right, so what you see here is we have a cue ball diagram right up over here. And with this cue ball diagram, I can take that red dot and tell you if I'm using top spin, bottom spin, left spin, right spin, or everywhere in between. We've got my scoreboard down here at the bottom. You can see that this is going to be a race to 5. The opponent that I'm playing is a skill level 7 like myself. And then you see these row of balls here. And this is just a new interactive feature that I've been trying to do. And so whenever one of us makes a ball, then the balls will start disappearing, like so. All the way up until, if someone ends up making the 8 ball, and then we start a new rack, and all the balls will come back to be visible. Like, that's at least what I have that for there. All right, so like I said, usually what'll end up happening is during the review, I have to try to remember to glance back and forth between the match and the live chat, especially if there's a question in the live chat. I try my best not to ignore the live chat. I try to be as interactive as I possibly can, but do know that the main focus is to analyze the match, as well as try to provide enough interaction for the live chat. Now, as I said before, This is a race to 5 with me up against another skill level 7. Let's see who's going to break first. And you can see my 9 ball is flying, and so I end up losing the lag, so my opponent is going to break first. I'm just going to fast forward until they break. Okay, so it looks like he's going to be going for a second ball break. This is usually when you can try to get the 8 ball to fall on the break, because an 8 ball on the break does count as a win in the APA system. I do see that a stripe drops. What did anything else drop? Because I think that was the 13 ball. And I think that was it. So my opponent is stripes, and I'm going to be solids. So when I look at this layout, the first thing I start to wonder is what my opponent has planned for this right here. This looks like it's the 10 ball tied up next to the 8. Opponent starts off by shooting the 12 ball off the table, has position on maybe the 15 or the 9, but it looks like he's going to go for the 9. Good shot on the 9 ball there. Kind of breaks up his 14 ball. I just can't really tell if the 14 now passes by the 4. Looks like he's got a super thin cut shot on the 15 ball. That might give him the opportunity to break that 10 ball out away from the 8. Except being jacked up over the 3 ball, that kind of makes it a little bit harder than it should be. Or maybe he's not jacked up over the 3. Never mind. But he tries to go for a bank shot and gets a lucky bank shot at that. It gets a carom off of the 8, which does knock the 10 ball loose. Now, this is getting interesting, though. Right? Because I've talked about this on numerous occasions. This is a position where if you're going to keep on doing this, by that meaning make balls, you better have a plan to finish. Because if you don't finish, chances are you're probably going to lose. All right, my opponent's doing a great job here. Makes the 10 ball that he managed to get loose from that lucky bank on the 15. Has a shot on the 14 and needs his cue ball to be able to land somewhere over here so he can cut the 11 into this pocket here. And I'm not sure if he got it or not. Oh, you can see he points at the rail, so it looks like he wanted to try to force the cue ball up to this rail and have it come out. So the question is going to be can he cut this ball to the upper right corner pocket? Doesn't look like he can, and we don't see a lucky roll. So now I get to come to the table, and I don't really have any obstacles. All right, so before we do that, let's see if I can get this to where right about... well, I can't find a spot where we can see the table. So right here, maybe. So it's pretty obvious that I'm shooting the 4 ball first, right? So the question usually has to come into play here is what kind of pattern should you try to play? Now, in a position like this, where all the balls are wide out in the open, chances are you should be able to plan an entire run out all the way to the 8 ball. Some players, though, don't have the skill set to do that. So that's where you always hear the common phrase of think 2 or 3 balls ahead. Well, even when you're thinking 2 or 3 balls ahead, you might say to yourself, well, I can't run 2 or 3 balls, so what good does that do? And the only thing I can say about that is you still have to be able to pick your spots. So if you think, like, for example, can anybody make this 4 ball? I would probably say so. I think anybody can make this 4 ball, but can anybody run this layout? That becomes the trick question. And if you can say to yourself, if you can be honest with yourself and say, I can't run the table, well, then where are you going to stop? What I mean by that is, where are you going to stop by playing a safety? Not where are you going to stop because you know at this point you're going to miss, because that's the last thing you want to do. Specifically because if you're aware of where your opponent's last ball is. Right? So when you think about this, if I were to play this 4 ball into this pocket here and have my cue ball come out to here, we can see that I'm going to have position on the 2 ball, and this is pretty much what I'm going to be trying to do. But let's just say that you're not comfortable shooting the 2, because how do you get position from the 2 to any of these guys? Well, because of where this 11 ball is at, then there should be nothing wrong with just shooting the cue ball up to here, hitting the 7 into the rail, and putting the cue ball up here as well, to where the 6 ball and the 8 ball are acting as blockers from the 11 ball. That's just a very simple, basic safety to play. Does that mean you're going to win? Well, no, of course not, because if your opponent kicks the ball in, right, and gets position, right, but then you have to ask yourself, what is the percentage of your opponent being able to do that? Well, in my case, since my opponent's a skill level 7, I got to make sure that I lock him up pretty good, or I need to make sure that I'm going to finish the table. So at this point here, that's what I do end up trying to do. I play this 4 ball, some top left spin, so that way I can get position on the 2 ball. You can see I just gently roll it in. I end up hitting it just a tad bit too soft, because really I wanted the cue ball to be somewhere right around here, so that way I can just draw the cue ball back, because now with right spin, I'm going to have the cue ball 2 rail zigzag to somewhere over here. Right, that way I can decide if I want to take the 3 ball or come up here and deal with any of these balls here. Now, if I remember correctly, next was the 6 ball. This is what with a bit of stun, so that way I can bump into the 7 ball. Kind of like that. Because then the rest of the pattern here is 1, 7, 3, 8. And I had all that in mind prior to even shooting the first ball. There goes the 6. There goes the 1. Next, you're going to see the 7. And so what we want to make sure that we do, though, is that I didn't do this in this example here, which was make sure where do I want the cue ball to be. I got position, but look, do you see me kind of throw my hands up in the air? Because like, what am I complaining about here? Well, I'm complaining because if I shoot this 3 ball in now, my cue ball does this. It goes away from my 8 ball, which is obviously what I didn't want to do. So when I shot that last ball in, I should have made sure that I knew that I wanted my cue ball to be somewhere right around here. And you saw me go 1 rail and back out. I probably should have gone 2 rails and then come back out. Let's go back to that previous shot. Right here. All right, so I came 1 rail out, and I probably should have come 2 rails out, because I think I ended up just doing this, and that's what caused me to stop right here. And I probably should have did something like this, so that way I can float more into the line of the shot and hopefully get as straight as I did, because otherwise all I could say is maybe I should have just hit the ball harder. But the difference being is that if you look at the zone of where I can possibly get straight in, right, I'm coming through here, which is through a thinner part of the zone to be able to get for the position that I want. Whereas if I can come this way like this, then I start landing in the wider zone and gives me a larger margin of error to hopefully get what I want. So that's probably what I should have done there. Instead of doing the 1 railer, I probably should have done 2 rails to get position on the 3. But since I do have position on the 3, I can clearly make it. Like that's not an issue, but what do I do in regards to my 8? Well, when you play enough straight pull like I do, you start to have a better understanding of how to control the cue ball to bump into other balls, especially since in straight pull you're usually trying to break up clutters or clusters. So I think what I end up doing here is I draw the cue ball into the 11. That's why you see me take my stick from the 3 over to the 11, because if I run into the 11, that's going to stop my cue ball. And then I'll have a shot at the 8. Kind of like that. So I was able to recover just from a small little mistake. Small little mistake that could have been a catastrophe, really. And if anybody's wondering about what that marker is, it's this little guy. My little minion pointing where I'm going to make the 8 ball. And there's the first rack that I'm able to take down. And so far, we're still on 0 innings. Now, in the thumbnail, I titled this first match the perfect pop break. Because that's what I've been working on lately. Anybody that's been following my channel knows that I have very particular ways that I break. I've shown, at least for 8 ball, I've shown what I refer to as the classic break. And I've shown the second ball break in order to try to make the 8 ball on the break. But now I'm back to doing the pop break, and the reason for that is because stuff that I've learned from Tony. when Tony Robles was here teaching me more stuff about straight pull. And he showed me one little trick in regards to how to hit the rack as square as I possibly can, or hit the head ball as square as I possibly can. And this little trick also works for straight in shots, absolute straight in shots. So what you see me doing right now is you see the tip of my cue is pointing at the very, very bottom of the cue ball. Very, very bottom of the cue ball. Not because I'm going to hit there, but what that tells me is that I'm going to be hitting the very center of the cue ball along the horizontal axis, right? Because the only absolute center of the cue ball is the part that touches the table. So I'm kind of using that as a reference. I want to see that the tip of my cue is aiming at the very, very bottom of the cue ball. But again, that's not where I'm going to strike. It's just an aiming reference. Because once I'm all lined up with that, now I try to ignore the cue ball altogether. And I want to see, does the tip of my cue now point to the very bottom of the object ball, or the head ball in this case, since I'm breaking. And if I can see that, because this is no different than if you try to use whatever aiming system you want to use. If you process what you see incorrectly, you're going to get bad results. But if you happen to process things correctly, you're hopefully going to get the desired result that you're looking for. And if I can see that the tip of my cue is now pointing, after I've lined it up with the very bottom of the cue ball, if I can now see that it points to the very bottom of the one ball in this case, then that tells me that I'm going to get a dead straight on strike, which is what I'm looking for. Because I've got my bridge in a way to where my cue looks like this. I mean, you should be able to see the bit of slope that I have for my cue. And kind of like what Shane Van Boning does with his break, if anybody have seen the break analysis that people have done on his, is that when his elbow is that high as his cue is elevated like this, during his stroke, he'll drop his elbow and try to get flat and then shoot his way through the cue. And that's what you're going to see me do, but that you're going to see the tip of my cue come up, which tells me I'm dropping my elbow too much. But if I do everything correctly, I'll get a square hit on the one ball. The cue ball is going to pop into the air. And if it lands back on the table from a straight on hit, it should hopefully stop right in the middle of the table. So long as the tip of my cue, when I drop my elbow, contacts somewhere right around here. And that's what you're hopefully going to see here. So what you're going to see is I'm going to do a couple of practice strokes where I'm aiming at the very, very bottom of the cue ball. Then you're going to see the tip of my cue come up slightly, because that tells me I'm done aiming and I'm about to strike. And then you'll see me strike the cue ball. So you can see the tip of my cue is at the very, very bottom. And then right about here, I think, now you see the tip of my cue is up, and then I strike, and look what the cue ball does. Pops into the air and then stops. Now, I was just unfortunate that I didn't make a ball on the break. All right, so let's look at this again. Pop and stop. Now, can I do that every time? No. It's usually what I try to do on every single solitary break. And am I going to make a ball? Well, that just depends, right? It depends on the type of rack that my opponent gives me. My opponent gave me a rather decent rack. I mean, look at the spread that I got here. I just didn't happen to drop a ball. And for me, this is a position I certainly don't want to be in. I don't want to have a beautiful spread like this and not drop a ball, because then my opponent's more than likely going to be able to come to the table and run it out. But let's see what happens here. What would y'all choose in this scenario? Because solids or stripes look rather decent. In regards to solids, this looks like the only trouble ball, really, because it's blocked by the 13 ball. So it looks like my opponent likes stripes, and he takes the 15 ball out. And it doesn't look like there's any issues with stripe. He just has to make sure that his cue ball control, as he transitions from one ball to the next, is where it's supposed to be. The 6 ball looks like it's going to be the hardest ball on the table to be able to make, because you'd have to be able to get somewhere where he's at. And I think right there he accidentally touched the cue ball. All right, so now I have ball in hand with this wide open table, and I'm solids. So I have to not screw up. I'm trying to remember what I did here. I'm pretty sure I start with the 6 ball because to me it's the hardest ball on the table. Let's see here. Get the cursor out of the way. As you can see right now, I'm sitting there, I'm standing there with the cue ball in my hand, and I'm looking at this entire table. Like, I'm not trying to say that I'm going to shoot this ball and then shoot this ball and then figure out what I'm going to do next. Because there are no clusters, there's nothing for me to solve. I'm really trying my best to plan an entire run out. And if something goes wrong during my execution, then of course I have to try to be able to come up with a different plan. And so when I start with the 6 ball, that I automatically should be leading myself to the 4 ball. So I would tend to think that I'm probably just going to play some sort of stop shot. So just a little bit below center. The cue ball kind of just dribbles forward, no big deal. Now this is what I don't remember as to what I was trying to do here. I would tend to think that I'm trying to go from the 4 to the 3. That would be my assumption. Because then from the 3, I can go to the 7 and then try to figure out things from here. But I think I end up hitting this ball just a little too hard. So I think I have a rolling cue ball, so I hit just slightly above center. And see, as the cue ball comes down towards the middle of the table, rolls past the 3 ball, and then just knuckles up next to the 5 ball. So I can shoot the 3. Shooting the 3 is not the issue, but seeing how my cue ball is going to either clip the 8 or just drift up here, I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to get positioned on the 7. So now I start looking down here. And so what you see me looking at is to see if I can play the 5 ball into the rail and off the 11 to go into the corner pocket. But that means I'm shooting the 5 ball thinly. I'm going to clip the 2 ball, which means my cue ball is going to drift up here. I'm not sure what I'm going to have next either. So I don't particularly like that option. And so finally, I just end up settling on trying to cut the 1 ball. I think, again, all it is I have just a rolling cue ball, just above center hit. It's a thin cut shot on the 1 ball. I end up overcutting the ball. You can see that it was pretty much just going to hide behind the 14 ball instead of trying to go into the pocket. So now my opponent gets to come back to the table. Okay, I think that's the 10 ball that he shot. Comes down table, now has position for the 9 ball or the 11 ball. Chances are he's probably going to shoot the 11 ball and then probably just transition over to the 14 ball. Maybe hit that just a little too thin. Certainly didn't want to bump into his 9 ball, I would think. Okay, next we have the 13 ball. Shoots that in. Almost bumped into the 9 again. Good shot there on the I think that was the 12. So this was a fairly decent pattern that he's doing here. My only issue is that when he shot, I think this was the 11 ball that was down here, is he didn't transition to the 14 ball because now he had to shoot balls that were up here only to come back down here and then transition back up here again. It's certainly a pattern that's doable, but there's a whole lot of movement with the cue ball. And usually, if you can help it, you do want to try to minimize the movement of your cue ball when you're running the table. And it looks like he just overcut the 9 ball and then blocks my 7 ball to go along with it. So now here, when I come back to the table, the first thing I think of is I can't break out my 7. So here, I don't even try. All I do is I think I just tried to hit the 2 ball to play some sort of safety. So I'm so close to the rail, so that means I automatically have some topspin on the cue ball. Right, and I just play a basic safety, right? Because he might be able to clip the 9 ball, but he certainly can't make it anywhere unless he gets lucky. So it looks like he goes for a kick shot, but he ends up hitting the short rail and then the side rail and then runs into the 9 ball. And there's no rail contact after that. Right, so I get ball in hand again. So now at least with ball in hand, I can try to break out my 7 ball. So that's what I do here by setting up for the 3. I think this is just a rolling cue ball. I'm going to try to knock the 3 in and then bump into the 7 and the 9 just to be able so it goes into the pocket. And I have the 5 ball down here as an insurance ball. So now all I have to do is hopefully not screw up. It's like bottom spin for the 5 ball to play a stop shot on the 1, just like that. Automatic top spin because I'm so close to the rail. It means like cue ball should come to the side rail here, but I don't hit it hard. I just float it in, which means I'm shooting the 7 next. This is definitely going to have to be with some bottom right spin as I try to pull the cue ball back. But you can see right there, I bumped into his 9 ball. That tells me that I must have decelerated my stroke. So therefore, the backspin that I wanted to be on the cue ball was gone by the time it got to the 7 ball, and that's why the cue ball still rolled forward and bumped into the 9 ball. Now here, I can automatically say that I should have played defensively, but I go for it. Bottom right spin, I try to zigzag the cue ball back up for position on the 8 as I shoot the 2 ball into the bottom left corner pocket. And you see I overcut the ball and miss, and then just leave an easy out for my opponent. So when I look at this spot here in retrospect, I figured all I should have done was hit the 2 ball. I mean, heck, I could even try to bank it if I want to, but the objective would be to get the cue ball to come over here. Right? The only thing I can hope for at that point, obviously I could have made the shot as well. That could have ended the match if I'd at least would have made it. But if I would have decided to play safe here, the idea would be to leave this thin cut shot for my opponent. Cue ball is going to run to the 8 ball. So what kind of outcome could have happened from here? Could he have knocked the 8 ball in early? Would he have had position on the 8 ball after he makes the 9 ball? And let alone, would he have made the 9 ball from this type of position here? Those are all the different types of things that I would be thinking of if I wanted to try to play safely in this position here rather than going for it. Because I certainly would want the cue ball to be somewhere down here to make this shot as hard as possible. But I don't want the cue ball to be anywhere in this zone. I want it somewhere in this zone here to where my opponent has to play a back cut shot on the 9 ball, automatically cause the cue ball to run into the 8, and then who knows what would happen after that. But nonetheless, I missed the shot. My opponent should be able to get out from here. Let's catch back up. So from here, I mean, 9 ball and 8 ball should be going into the same pocket. All right, there goes the 9. And there goes the 8. At that point in time, you notice that he doesn't put a marker up, because normally in APA you're supposed to mark the pocket that you plan on making the 8 ball for, but I told him he can go ahead and call it, and I think from there on out you don't even see me bring out my minion anymore. We just start calling the shots. Okay, looks like a dry break here. This is one of the setbacks of the, or what's the word I'm looking for? Drawbacks of the second ball break is the clusters that come up. You like, depending upon what side that you break from, you watch all the balls go to one side and then watch them all collect back over on the other side. So makes the rack fun for sure, especially if you can solve it. Now, from here, I go ahead and decide to choose solids because I just think solids has the best layout with the 2 and the 7 being out here. They can help me break up the 5 and the 6. So I try to play the 3 ball here into the corner pocket. Get a lucky kiss off of the 1 ball, but it still happens to go into the pocket anyway. Now, because of my opponent's 15 ball, I could certainly try to cut my 4 ball, drive my cue ball up here, and break this stuff up. You see me, I'm kind of looking at it. But then I changed my mind and realized that the outcome is probably not going to be what I want it to be. So this is where I get honest with myself and go, I'm not running this table. So now I need to try to do something to make a bad position or a bad layout better. And so the 5 ball, I think, does sneak past the 15, but the 6 doesn't. So watch what I do with the 6. All right, all I did was push the 6 into his ball, so that way hopefully I can get it access to the pocket. But I don't. I think his ball snugs up next to it. But now my 6 ball is a little bit more accessible than it was, especially if he goes for the bait and shoots for it. Right? If that ball is serving as a blocker, then that's certainly a ball that I wouldn't shoot at. Which I think that was his 15. So, because if that ball was blocking my 6 ball, then that's a ball that I probably would not have shot at. I probably would have left it there and tried to deal with it later. Because now that he's done it, my 6 ball is certainly blocking his stuff here. Right? So what I wanted to accomplish by hitting my 6 ball the way that I did is working. So let's see if I get back to the table though. Right? I've hopefully increased my chances of coming to the table, but if my opponent runs out, he runs out. He earns his victory. But I certainly didn't attempt to go for a hero shot like I did last rack and lose the rack. I'm trying to allow my opponent an opportunity to earn it with a difficult layout. And so immediately I have to start thinking, what happens here? Like what plan does he have here? Or does he have a plan to stop? And look at that. It looks like he wants to cut this 13 ball and zigzag his cue ball back up here and maybe play the 12 in the side. Maybe. Kind of like that. Except he's on the other side. He's got position on the 12. 12 can go into the side pocket, but then what about the 11 and the 14? That's a nice bump on the 14 ball. I think he could cut it in, but then he's got nothing on the 11, and he knows it. You see him? He's just sitting there just staring at his 11 ball like, what do I do from here? What would y'all do here? The only thing I see that makes sense, I wonder if he's about to do it. No, see he goes for the cut, and then look what he's left with after this, right? Again, this is usually not a spot that you would want to be in. What's he gonna try to do here? He tries to bank it, and unfortunately scratches. So now I've got a wide open table with ball in hand. If I go back and look at this area here, I'm not entirely sure if what I'm going to suggest would work because I am looking at a diagonal table. But because of where the 11 ball is at, I kind of feel like he could have tried hitting the 14 ball fuller and trying to get it to carom off of my 2 ball into the pocket so that way he can hold the cue ball somewhere right here and therefore shoot the 11 all the way down here. Like, again, I don't know if that shot would actually be possible given the camera angle that I have here, but given what we do see with the camera angle, that it appears to be a possible shot. Because otherwise, I don't see what else you can do to control the cue ball better to where you don't have to bank this 11 ball. Because otherwise, you say to yourself, well, you make the 14 ball, your cue ball's over here, you have to bank it in and then hopefully go for the win. But I'd be curious if this option was available. Carom the 14 ball off of my 2, and then try to be able to hold the cue ball here so that way you can shoot the 11 down into the bottom right corner pocket. All right, so cue ball in hand. You've heard me mention before about, not having your cue ball go up and down the table. That's why you see me start down here with the 1 ball, because then I'm just going to transition my way up table. So that looked like it was just a stun shot to the middle of the table. If I had to think about what the rest of my pattern is, this is a rolling cue ball on the 6. I'm more than likely going to shoot the 2 ball next. Did I get straight in? I had to have if I'm drawing the ball. So this is actually poor cue ball execution. I'm going to try to recover from here, because I shouldn't have to do what I'm doing here. I draw the cue ball back for the 7, I think. And from here, it looks like top spin for no side spin, I would think. Cut the 7 ball in. Get position on the 4. The 5 ball is the last ball because it doesn't require any movement on the cue ball. This is probably with low stun left. Come down here to the bottom rail and then come back up towards the 5. Kind of like that. And then just a stop shot on the 5 ball and the 8 ball in the corner. Oh, a little bit of draw then. Little bit of draw. Probably a little bit of right spin then. And then just a rolling cue ball here to make the 8. So, like I said, I say this all the time whenever I watch my opponents. I wonder, what are they going to do with particular areas? Sometimes my opponents figure those areas out, and sometimes my opponents actually figure those areas out in a way that I didn't even think of. But then usually when I could see just from the way I'm watching their cue ball roll around the table, sometimes I can actually predict that they didn't know what they were going to do, and now they're just dealing with it when they get there. And that, again, I always try to say that's not a position that you want to be in, because all you really did was you removed what's referred to as your soldiers off the table when you really want them to be there for backup, as backup shots. So here we go with the pop break again. You see me, I'm trying to line up, and then I raise my cue. And then look at that. Cue ball squats right in the middle of the table. And it looks like I made a couple of balls. I saw the 3 ball fall. Did I make a stripe too? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I made a stripe. I just can't tell which one. Might have been the 14 ball. Might have been. So this is the type of break that I've been working on again. I've done this type of break before, but then I switched back to doing like classic breaks, or I've been trying to do second ball breaks, but I'm back to doing this break again. And I've been trying to work on it for both my 10 ball break as well as my 8 ball breaks. They serve the same purpose. So now here I have to assess, do I want solids or stripes? Both seem to be a little tricky. When you look here and you see, I can't tell. Yeah, right there. I can't tell if it must not be. The 5 and the 11 are blocking each other good enough to where one can't go in front of the other. So whether I choose solids or whether I choose stripes, I have to be able to break out this area right here. And then as well as the 2 ball. The 2 ball can't go into either of these pockets because it's guarded by both of these stripes. So that makes me think that stripes is probably the better option here. Let's see. Am I going to try to break the 11 out now with the 15 ball? Maybe a little bit of a stun right. I'm curious if that's what I was trying to do, or was I just trying to get position on the 9 ball and just overhit it? Because now I have to come down table. Okay, that was the 14 ball that fell, so I must have made the 10 on the break, and I just previously shot the 15 ball. This obviously didn't roll as much as I wanted. It was a rolling shot, and I didn't want to have this thin of a cut shot on this ball. I'm pretty sure I wanted my cue ball to be somewhere right around here. Yeah, you can see I pointed exactly where I wanted my cue ball to be, and I didn't hit it hard enough. So now I've left with a thin cut shot on what appears to be the 12 ball. Looks like I just have some topspin. The cue ball is just going to hit the short rail and come back up here. I might run into these two here. Yeah, I get a nice lucky bounce off the two. Good shots here. So more than likely, I probably shoot the 9 ball next, so that way I can try to break out this 11. And then this ball is a backup ball just in case something goes wrong. Kind of like that. I can shoot it either one. So don't like shooting at the 11 ball, I think, because I have to bridge over the 3 ball. So I end up shooting this 13 ball. And I'm trying to remember, do I get position for the 11 here? I can't see what... yeah. Cut this ball too thin. What was supposed to happen... That's why you see me hit the rail. What was supposed to happen... I don't know where the ball's at. But I'm supposed to hit this ball. Cue ball hits the rail and then kind of works its way down like this. Lands right here. So that way I can shoot this ball in like this. Draw the cue ball back for the 8 ball to go here into the corner pocket. But I cut this ball too thin. And what happens when you cut a ball too thin out of the corner? It just comes straight along the side rail. All right, so the only thing I got left to do is to try to cut this ball. We can see that the cue ball is going to drift over to this side rail, so all I have is a twist of right spin to see if I'm going to get position on the 8. But more importantly, I have to make sure that I'm going to make my ball, which I do. And when I got over here, the only thing I was worried about if I had position or not, and I had position, so I was able to play the 8 ball into the side pocket. There we go. And that was a break and run. I think the only thing that I got lucky on was the 12 ball that I shot down here. When the cue ball hit the short rail, came all the way back up and then bumped into my opponent's 2 ball, allowing me to have a shot. Right, so now I think from here we're going to see some times where the break doesn't go exactly the way I want it to. Because you can see my cue ball now goes off to the right. So I didn't hit it as squarely as I possibly could, but I still made a ball. Not only did I make a ball, but I made a predictable ball. Look at this 7 ball as it goes 4 rails around like that. That is a predictable path that the corner balls will do. If I were to break on this side, we'd be watching this ball do the same exact thing. Now, this ball is going to try to do the same exact thing anyway. It's just that since I'm breaking on the left side, not as much energy is going to get transferred into that other corner ball because everything's being transferred over to what would be the right side of the rack. And then, of course, I am trying to see if these 2 balls here will go into their side pockets. So watch that 7 ball when I hit this break. One, two, 3, 4, and corner pocket. Right? It's a very predictable path. Is it consistent? Well, that all depends on the rack. If there's a gap in the wrong area, then chances are it's not going to go there. If you hit the head ball, a millimeter off where you're supposed to normally hit, then it might go and hit the short rail. Hit the short rail, or it might hit the side rail. But it is a predictable route that it goes. Like in my classic break example on my breaking an 8-ball rack 2-ways video, I show you 5 predictable balls that you can almost control off of the break. Now with this rack, since I made solids in APA, if you make a single set on the break, that is the set that you are. So I am stripes on this one. You saw me open up with the 3 ball in the side pocket, getting automatic position for the 1, to which I'm shooting with bottom left spin to try to pull the cue ball back towards the middle of the table, automatically giving me position for the 5 ball. And what am I doing here? Am I cheating the pocket? Yeah, I had to have cheated the pocket in order to do what I did there. Got position on the 6. That looks like a lot of draw. What am I doing on this one? Am I trying to draw the cue ball back down over here? I am. And I don't get it. Oh, but I do remember this shot. Watch this, because I am trying to play the 4-ball into the side pocket. Now, remember in APA, you don't have to call your shots. Like, if something were to luckily drop, you can still continue to shoot. The only ball that has to be called is the 8-ball. So I am trying to play the combo, though. That is intentional. That was not intentional. I did not want that 2-ball to fall, though I do have a shot on the 8-ball. So this could be another break and run. But I blow it. I should have made that ball. And there's something that I've been trying to do in my game more often that I don't think I did during that shot right there, and that's this. Let's go back and look at the shot. When I make this combo, both of the balls fall, and look what I do. I just get over there, call the ball, get downs, and start to shoot. And one thing that I've been trying to reincorporate back into my game, I mentioned this during my last live stream about slowing my pre-shot routine down. I just made a difficult shot, or what I would consider to be a difficult shot. The combo was a difficult shot, especially going into the side pocket. Accidentally made the 2-ball as well. Did not want the 2-ball to fall. So when everything was done, I should have just stepped away from the table. You know, like go over to my teammate's table, grab my bottle of water, take a sip or whatever, and basically do what's referred to as a reset, right? And then just come back to the table and address the shot, completely forgetting about what happened that allowed me to miss that shot. Now, what we saw here, though, is that my opponent unfortunately scratched off of his first shot, giving me ball in hand when the 8-ball is perfectly blocked from going here, but since I have ball in hand, I can just make it and get on the hill. And I would have to probably just say the same thing to my opponent, is that, you know, he's coming to a wide open table and probably just rush the shot. I can't think of any other reason as to why he not only missed the shot, but didn't control the cue ball and allowed the cue ball to just drift forward and end up scratching. Now, I think at this point here, usually when I'm on the hill, I try to do a second ball break to go for the win, but I think at this point I had forgotten that I'm on the hill at this point. So I end up still trying to go for the pop break. And see, the cue ball almost stopped in the middle of the table, but just not quite. Not quite. Now, with what we have here, looks like Solids and Stripes both have their work cut out for them. But I'd probably have to say Stripes is favorable. Got 3 Stripes right here that don't really have any issues. This stripe could possibly be an issue, but all the other stripes look okay. My opponent likes solids. Starts off with the 4-ball. All right, so again, the whole time I'm watching, I'm wondering, what's he going to do here? Especially if he's going for the run. What do you do? See, and that goes all the way back to what should he have done with the with this 4-ball that he just shot. Because right now he's fairly flat on the 7-ball. See, one of the things I'm thinking about, let's let him shoot, and then I'm gonna go back and tell you give you my thoughts on what I'm talking about as to how much planning should go into whatever it is that you're going to attempt to do. At this point right now, he should be deciding whether or not if he's going to try to run the entire table, or where's he going to pick a spot to stop and give me an opportunity to try to run the table. All right, so he plays the 7-ball, like he just sticks the cue ball. He has a shot at the 5, it looks like. See, does anybody see an opportunity where he could address these balls here? Unfortunately scratched, but there isn't one anymore, right? I mean, maybe off of the 1, not entirely sure, but this is what I was thinking of. If we go all the way back to this point here, if you're going to choose solids, to me your primary objective is to figure out what the heck to do with this. Because if you don't have a plan for this, then maybe you shouldn't choose solids. Maybe you should choose stripes. Because like I said, stripes just looks a little bit easier. In regards to this ball here, there's at least a combo that you can take. And then the 9-ball frees up the 8-ball. You know, these are things that I'm thinking about. I can't tell if the 15 ball passes through here, but if you maybe play the 15 in the side, that's the other thing too, is whether or not if a ball is even makeable. Because I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if you just wanted to try to claim stripes, you'd have to either billiard the cue ball off the 11 into this rather wired combo, or see if you can cut the 15 into the side or into this side using this ball as a insurance ball to help, or not an insurance ball, but a ball that helps it go in. Because when I'm looking at this, if I'm going to claim solids, what I end up seeing was this is obviously the first shot that you should take, but how you get position on this ball is critical. And what I mean by that is I want to attempt to use this 5-ball to break this up. That's what I'm thinking. Might not be the best idea in the world, but it's at least what I'm thinking. And by doing that, what I mean is this. Shoot the 4-ball into the corner pocket. And I have to make sure that my cue ball comes here to some sort of cut angle. Maybe even here, some sort of cut angle. I don't want to be as flat as he was. And the reason being is because I want to be able to shoot the 7-ball in and almost get a very similar angle on this 5-ball. So that way I can shoot the 5 in and then try to gently separate these. If my cue ball runs into this, then the 3-ball bumps the 6 loose, the 3-ball bumps the 8 loose, the cue ball probably stops right here, and I have a shot at the 1-ball to go here into the corner pocket. That's at least what I would attempt to do in this position if I was just hell-bent on trying to choose solids. Does it mean I'm going to run out? Not entirely sure. It all depends on how this clutter separates if I execute this 3-ball route correctly. Because from the 1-ball, I have the 2-ball next to go down here into this corner pocket. It would all really depend on how the 3-ball and the 6-ball settle up after I try to break them out using the 5-ball. That's what I see here. Now, if we come back up to where I'm at, because after my opponent scratched, when I look at this table, my only problem is this. So when you have problem spots, especially if you have ball in hand, you want to try to deal with them as soon as possible. And that's exactly what I do here. I start off by shooting the 11-ball with some topspin, so that way my cue ball can roll right into the 6 and the 3. The only objective I want is to push the 8-ball away from them. Kind of like that. And I don't think the 8-ball can go anywhere just yet. I don't remember if it does or if it doesn't. All right, now I can shoot the 10-ball. You can see I'm automatically going to get position on this ball down here. I don't remember if I bump into the 5-ball or not. And I don't. I go around it. Probably hit that just a little bit harder than I wanted to. You can see where I kind of just like flick my stick. But I still have a shot at it. This should allow me to get position for the 9-ball, I think. Except I hit that one a little too hard. Let's see. I'm trying to figure out what balls are still on the table. This is where having these balls here to be more interactive can get a little overwhelming. Now, how many of y'all do this? What do you think is going to happen here? How many of y'all do that? Be honest here. Like, I'm not trying to call anybody out or be embarrassing, because like, what am I worried about when I shoot that ball? I don't want to double hit the cue ball. I'm kind of stretched across the table and stuff. I want to be able to draw the ball, but I also have got to make sure that the tip of my cue doesn't double hit the cue ball. All right, so I try to snap it back as quickly as I possibly can, but in doing so, I don't end up getting the full momentum transferred into the cue ball, so therefore I don't even have the full momentum to be able to make the ball into the pocket like I wanted. All right, so yeah, I end up fouling, and my opponent gets ball in hand. How many of y'all have done that before? When the cue ball is so close to the object ball that when you try to strike it, you basically do what I like to refer to as a snake bite. You try to snap your cue back as quickly as you can. You end up executing it correctly because you don't double hit the ball, but you have like no momentum transferred into the cue ball. That was the 3 ball that was gone. Now he has a shot here. Oh, but he shot it into the side rail. He had a chance to close it out here, but I think this allows me to close it out. I don't know what ball that is. I think that was the 12 ball. You can see I draw back here for the 9 because I couldn't get position for either of these balls here. And then now, because of straight pull, I'm going to try to shoot this ball in and bump into these two. Because I can't afford to let the cue ball go on the other side of these two. Like, the cue ball has to run into these two. And then, of course, since I'm running into them, I have to hope that I get a shot. I mean, I have to precisely hit them in a good way, kind of like that, to make sure that I even have a shot. Right? Because clearly things could go completely wrong, and I might not have a shot afterwards. But now here, with just some top spin and a touch of right spin, I can have the cue ball come off the side rail, get position for the 13. And then I'm trying to remember, I think this is with bottom left. No. What am I? I'm rolling that ball. What am I doing? Am I 3-railing this? Yep, that's the high inside 3-railer. How many of y'all are comfortable doing that? You see where I wanted the cue ball to be? This is a shot. Shooting this way is something that I learned when I went to Demetrius's boot camp in Minnesota. Because before I went to Minnesota, what I would try to do with this shot here is play this with bottom left. And I would try to do this. Make this ball, and then get the cue ball to do something like that. That's what I would try to do in the past. After I went to Demetrius's boot camp and I got more comfortable with doing multi-rail positioning, like this is kind of something like you would almost do in 9, or that you would do in 9-ball. And so instead, now I play this with high inside in efforts to try to get the cue ball to go 3 rails around. Because the moment I hit this rail, as long as I've got enough pace behind the cue ball, as the cue ball comes down here, I now have a shot. And if I hit it too hard, I continue to have a shot up until the point to where I hit this rail and then start losing the shot after that, if I actually did hit it that hard. But in the case that you saw here, I didn't hit it hard enough because the cue ball didn't land exactly where I wanted it to be. Like right here, eh? Like just maybe like a few more inches. Now, this shot's doable. It's just not the easiest shot in the world because I have to control my cue ball from scratching. Normally when I shoot the 8-ball, I try to get my cue ball in a position where I don't have to worry about controlling it. But at least here I have to try to control the cue ball. I'm able to make it and take the game down 5-1. Now, I think there wasn't really much I could say as far as my opponent's performance. Hopefully what I was saying before, that if my opponent happens to catch this, is that, you know, if you're going to go for the runouts, like, you obviously have to make sure that you're going to finish the rack, because if you don't finish the rack and you allow an opponent like myself to be able to come to the table, chances are you're going to lose. Not because I'm going to run the table, but because I'm more than likely going to piece the table apart, make a ball here and there, play a defensive shot, force you to kick at your ball with a high probability that I might get ball in hand, and then the game's over. When you run the table the way that you do and you're stuck with 1 ball left on the table, or you're stuck on the 8-ball and you actually didn't have a plan to actually make it, and what I mean by that is you don't have a decent shot, like a 51% chance of making the ball, or heck, even a 60% chance of making the ball, and you end up missing, well then the only way for you to win from there is by getting lucky. And by that meaning you're waiting for your opponent to miss in such a way so that way you have a shot at either your last ball or balls that you have left on the table, or you have a shot at the 8-ball. You've now won the game because of luck. Now, you can be happy with the fact that you won the game because of luck, but I would tend to think that we would want to win our games because of skill, because we were in control of the table. So if you can be honest with yourself and identify that you're not going to run the table because you just couldn't figure out what to do with certain types of clusters that are on the table, then you play some sort of a defensive shot. But that doesn't mean you're going to win, but you've hopefully increased the probability that you might be able to come back to the table and possibly win, because now your opponent is going to have more obstacles to maneuver the cue ball around rather than less obstacles if you just clear the table off. So I hope that makes sense, because that would probably be the biggest thing I'd have to say to my opponent here, is just to make sure that if you obviously have the confidence to run the table and you have a plan to run the table, you better darn make sure that you're going to run the table. And of course, mistakes are going to happen, like for sure, but we at least saw a couple of times where during those runouts, I kept wondering, what's he going to do about this area here? And it didn't look like there was a plan. Maybe there was, but I'm just giving my observation that I think there wasn't one, and that could be one of the biggest contributing factors to losing racks. So I hope that makes sense. And with that being said, I'm going to try to run an ad, and let's see what happens. So I actually don't even know if the ad's playing or not, but we'll see. And I'm going to set up for the next match. Oh, holy crap, there's over 100 people in here watching. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I really do appreciate it. Now, if you can just do one thing for me, hit that thumbs up button. I really would appreciate that. It helps me out in the YouTube algorithm, so that way hopefully more people can discover my live stream while it's live, or even after the fact. So that way people can hopefully watch this and then be able to learn things from it. Okay, so it looks like some people said the ad played and some people said that the ad didn't play. There's something I was testing, because like I'm also watching my live stream and I didn't see an ad play. So I don't maybe because I have an ad blocker, but I don't know what it does. But maybe it'll insert it there like after the whole stream is over. Like maybe that's what that feature does. I have no idea. But that's that there as I prepare for the next match. Okay. Before we go to the next match, does anybody have any questions? This is kind of like what I use as an intermission in between matches. All right, let's see here as I go through the live chats. Yeah, and of course if that ad did play, like it just dropped from 111 people to down to 88. Nobody wants to watch advertisements. I get it. Let's see, Arturo Cascante. I hope I said that correctly, because you're saying hello from Costa Rica. Welcome to my live stream. This is something I do from time to time where I review my matches that I have in the APA League. So hopefully I can try to find ways for me to play better. And anybody that's watching these live streams, if they actually see that they play relatively at my skill level or deal with the same types of issues that I deal with, then we hopefully can discover ways to improve, to not deal with these issues that we have here. Thanks, 9,000. You're asking if I ever just think about playing with an extension. I have one. I have for my Predator Black 4.5, I have the 12-inch extension for the back end of the cue. I hardly ever use it, especially at League, because I'm playing on a 7-foot table. But when I play on like 9-foot table tournaments, I either decide whether if I'm going to use the bridge or if I'm going to go ahead and add the extension. It just really depends on where the cue ball's at, because there are certain shots that I can shoot with an extension very comfortably and still control the cue ball. And then there's some that even with the extension, like the cue would be bridging. I would be bridging past the joint of the cue, and like that's just too far, right? So when I find that I'm bridging that far, then I end up getting the bridge and just shooting with that. Sometimes with the extension as well, so I can still reach the darn shot, because the bridge will be reaching all the way at the other end of the table. It just depends. But I do have an extension, and I do use it from time to time. Chris Hines, you're asking me if I play and practice with one cue or do I switch it up? Well, if you're new to my channel, you'll see that in my league matches and tournament matches, I have a Predator Black 4-5. If you watch any of my most recent recorded content, or when I'm live streaming in my garage when I'm playing straight pull, you'll see that I'm using a Predator Tuxedo. So two different cues, but the shaft on both of them are 12.9 millimeters, and they at one point had the same tip. They both had a Predator Victory soft tip, but as of late, my Predator Black 4-5, I have now switched out the tip on there for a How soft tip. And that's because it was just time to change the tip. The tip that's on my Tuxedo cue currently still is in very good condition and is not ready to be changed. But at some point in time, that tip will get changed as well. It'll most likely get changed to a tip that I'm either going to want to try out something different, because that's how I settle in on other things. The How tip that I currently have on my Predator Black 4-5 is great. I like it a lot, especially the more that I use it. And I did mention before that in the near future, if everything pans out the way I want it to, I might end up switching tips again to where both my Predator Black 4-5 and my Tuxedo, the tips are going to be changed to the same tip. But don't want to speak any more on that because I don't want to jinx anything, because I haven't heard anything yet, but we'll see about in the future how that all pans out. Danks, you're asking about using a shorter one. No, I don't bother shooting with a shorter one. The reason why I got the 12-inch one is because I don't want to have an extension per scenario, if that makes sense. The 12-inch extension serves for any scenario, so that way I can use it for any particular type of length. I don't need to be at the table and decide, do I need to grab the 4-inch extension or the 6-inch extension or the 12-inch extension? It's like I don't want to bother with any of that, so that's why I just got a 12-inch extension. So if I have to use it, I use it, and if I don't, I don't. Oh, some people are still saying that the ad played, and some people are saying that the ad didn't play. Well, I'm not going to do it again. I just wanted to do it at that point of this one here, because then when I go back and rewatch the live stream, I'll end up time stamping where everything at, where the match begins, where rack 1 begins, where rack 2 begins, where rack 3 begins, and then depending upon where YouTube decided to place ads, I'll start shifting them around and find better spots to play an ad. Like I said, if there's some downtime in between a shot or in between switching different scenes and stuff. It all really depends. I try not to bombard my videos with ads, but I mean, it's no secret I'm monetized on YouTube, so I do draw in some residual income. So I do have ads play from time to time. I just try not to just have a whole bunch of ads playing. So it just depends. Okay. Not really seeing any questions here. Oh, here we go. What is that? Monsta Shannon? I hope I'm saying that correctly. What's the tip size? 12.5 or 11.7? For both the Predator Black 4-5 and the Tuxedo that I have, I use 12.9. I use 12.9 because I used to shoot with a 13 millimeter shaft, and so when I wanted to switch to carbon fiber and try out, 12.9 was the closest, right? Could I go down to 12.5? I'm sure I could if I wanted to and tried, but I currently like what I like and have no reason to change. And so that's the only reason why I at least changed from 13 millimeters to 12.9. Philip Hager, you're asking about my shirts. So let me at least do this, and I will be right back. Okay, so that was a small break, but here's the shirt. So this is a jersey. Try to make sure things are out of the way here. So you can see here on the right pec is the right sleeve is the. I'm trying to hold this where you can see it. There we go. Is where you can have the onboard logo. Now you can actually customize these. Like the onboard logo doesn't have to be in these particular spots. I just decided to put them in those spots so that way they're represented just as well as I'm represented because my logo is over here on the left pec. If I can hold this up appropriately. And it's also on the left sleeve. Now, why did I decide to... God, I'm terrible at this. There we go. Why did I decide to put my logo on the left sleeve? Well, because that's where my bridge hand is. So my bridge arm is always the one that's extended, so that way you can actually see my logo on top of that. And then here in the back, you can see onboard here right below the neck, and then of course my logo as well. So this is my design that I have here for this. Like I said, there's a jersey and then there's a mid layer. And what a mid layer is basically just a light jacket. It's the same thing. It's a pullover. The inside of the material is a little bit more. It's softer. I was going to say more softer. It's softer than this material here. And the mid layer is also a pullover, just like this is. Just like because I have to pull this over my head in order to be able to wear it. But the design of the mid layer is the exact same color scheme, but like I said, longer sleeves and softer material on the inside of the shirt or inside of the mid layer in order to help keep you warmer. Like I said, this will hopefully be publicly available sometime in July. That's at least what I'm hoping for, at the very least. Later on, I might come up with new logos or whatever, or new color designs, but we'll see. So that's that there. Mike Thomas, you're asking me how many years have I been shooting and how much practice do you get in? You watch my videos all the time. First of all, thank you very much for that. I've been playing now for 24, almost 25 years because I started when I was 17. And I'm 41 now. Gonna be 42 in December. I practice now every day. I'm at least blessed to work as an IT developer. Where I'm at right now, doing this live stream, is my personal computer. I also work from home. My work computer is right here. Right? So there's times where like I can sit here and play around on YouTube and stuff while I'm working as well. And I have a pool table in my garage. That's basically where how I have a channel and stuff. And so whenever I take a break from work, I go into my garage, bang some balls around, might do a straight pool high run attempt or whatever. But I do tend to practice every day. And collectively, because like I'll go into my garage for like 15 or 30 minutes, but multiple times. Right? It won't be just one long session of practicing. The only time I do a long session of practice is at night, like when I'm off of work or whatever, and then I've got nothing else to do for the day, no leagues, no tournaments or anything. Then I will go in there and play for a couple of hours and stuff, and that's usually when I'll live stream as well, because I'll live stream when I'm doing like high run attempts at straight pool or whatever. And so being able to do that has obviously helped increase my game. Like anybody that follows me long enough knows that I don't really like to describe myself as a good player. I mean, I'm decent. I know what I know, and I've been able to teach what I know in such a way that allows people to be able to pick things up. I know plenty of people that play much better than I do, can probably teach the game just as well as I do, but they spend more time focusing on their game, playing in pool tournaments, playing in competitions, and stuff like that. And so all I try to do is compete with them. That's the very least of what I try to do, because if I didn't have my 9-to-5 job, then I could probably try to devote more time to really practicing, working on my skills, jump shots, bank shots, kick shots, working on every skill set that I could possibly work on to improve my game. But I don't. I mean, like I said, I'm working from 9 to 5, sometimes later than that. It just really depends. Sometimes I have to work on the weekend, even as an IT developer. It just depends. So I work with what I have in regards to trying to improve my game, and that's why I try to play as much as I can. And then I test my skill levels by playing in open tournaments. The Texas State Open that happens every year. I'm already registered to play in that, and to see if I can place in the money. Like I've played in it a couple of times for years. I think the closest I've ever gotten to placing in the money is like 1 or 2 rounds. If I win 1 or 2 more matches out of the journey that I went through, I would have at least made some money. But I've never placed in the money. When I first started playing in the Texas State Open many years ago, I would just go 2 and out. Like I was way out of my league back then, but I didn't care because I wanted the experience. You'll hear people say like you should play in these types of tournaments for the experience, right? To see like quote unquote how good are you, kind of thing. And what you're paying for is the experience. And so, like I said, back then it was just 2 and out, 2 and out, 2 and out. Did not matter. Then eventually I started coming up with this notion of, well, it's probably unreasonable that I go to the Texas State Open with some sort of attitude like I'm going to win the tournament, right? You want to have a positive attitude, of course, but I also want to have a realistic attitude. And so when it comes to tournaments nowadays, I have 3 milestones that I always try to target. And if I can accomplish one out of those 3 milestones, then I'm pretty happy with the way I perform. The first milestone is don't go 2 and out, right? In a double elimination tournament, try to at least win one match. So that way you're, three rounds in before you got eliminated instead of just 2. Milestone number 1, try to not go 2 and out. Milestone number 2, if you don't go 2 and out, try to place in the money. And then milestone number 3, if you do place in the money, then try to win the whole freaking thing. Right? And so far when it comes to the Texas State Open, I've only been able to accomplish one milestone, and that's not go 2 and out. Now, if anybody was following me when I went to the BCA Texas BCA State event, when I played in the 8-ball singles event, I went 2 and out, right? So I didn't even accomplish a single milestone in that one there. And so when stuff like that happens, that makes me go back to the drawing board and really try to figure out, well, what the heck did I do wrong besides miss shots that I probably shouldn't have missed, right? Should I have done a different strategic approach, or what could I have done better besides not miss to not go 2 and out, and then try to work towards accomplishing the second milestone and then being able to accomplish the third milestone. So that's how I do that there. Let's see here. Coffee McClendon, you're asking me what's an inexpensive cue that I would recommend for an intermediate player like yourself looking to take their game to the next level. I can't recommend anything to you, bud. If you should hear this on a regular basis, because like I could tell you, for example, I shoot with predator cues, right? But do you know how expensive predator cues are? And I'm not trying to boast, but I can afford them, and that's why I shoot with them. Not a lot of people can afford that kind of stuff, right? But you said so yourself, an inexpensive cue. Well, it's the same. It's still the same thing. I could tell you any name brand that I can think of. You can possibly go try that cue out, and you're not going to like it for whatever reason, right? But then that gives you the ability to say, well, little Chris said to try this cue out, and I tried it, and I don't like it. I hate it. I think it's the worst thing, or whatever. There's no direct answer when it comes to equipment. It's all personal preference. Because even when you say, I like this particular brand, but I also like this particular brand with this type of tip that doesn't come with the cue, right? Because things start to get so customizable. You hear people talking about a 57-inch cue in length. Some people like to play with a 58, 59, 60. Some people play with their extensions always on the cue. Like there's no like hard answer that I could give you. So when you're saying inexpensive, what does that mean? Is $300 inexpensive to you? Is $500 inexpensive to you? It's really difficult to give you like some sort of concrete answer, other than I can simply say, make sure you get a cue that you can afford, and make sure that you can get a cue that you actually like looking at. Because then you're obviously, unless the place you're buying it from allows you to do some test hits I don't know very many brick and mortar stores that allow you to do that, because once you test hit a cue, you've now devalued the cue. It's like when you take a brand new car off the lot, it's immediately devalued the moment you take it off the lot. But after you buy the cue, you're gonna hit a couple of balls, and you're gonna find out, like, if you like the way it feels, the way the sound the tip is gonna produce when it hits the cue ball, and the way the vibrations are gonna make your arm feel. Because then, even if you buy a cue, whatever cue that you happen to buy, you're gonna run into people. You're gonna say, like, "Hey, that's a really cool cue. Do you mind if I hit a couple balls with it?" You're gonna hit a couple balls with it, and you're like, "Man, this cue feels much better than mine. How much did this cue cost you?" And then someone tells you that it's like, $200 or $300 more expensive than your cue. Are you gonna save up to buy that cue? Like, that's basically the journey that you're gonna end up going through when it comes to buying whatever cue that suits you best. And it's certainly not going to be any cue that anybody or myself could recommend to you. You just have to take the time and research and just go through things. Because I started with a Walmart Steve Miserak, if anybody remembers those cues. From there, I shot with, after that, I shot with Mucci for a little bit. I've also shot with Joss's. I have Vikings. I still have Vikings. I still love shooting with my Vikings. I've also had Sean's. I've also had custom cue maker Woodworth and Bloodworth. I now shoot with Predator. You see me that I'm shooting with Predator cues. So, like, I've gone through the journey that I'm describing to you. And every cue that I've had, I have personally liked. But if I were to ask anybody in my live chat of the name brands that I've mentioned, what do they think of the name brands? There's going to be some that are going to be like, "Hey, those are great name brands." And there's going to be some that says those name brands are crap. All right, so there's really no good answer that I can give you, other than obviously get one that you can afford, and get one that that is visually appealing to you. And then, like I said, as time goes by, you're more than likely going to change. It's going to happen. I think it's going to happen. I've seen other people do it as well. All right, let's see here. Let's go ahead and get ready to review the last match. So we're going to switch over to this. I got to fix my camera again. What I mean by fixing my camera is every time I change from the old view to this view, I have to change the resolution of the camera. So that way you can see me, like this. Alrighty then. Now, in this matchup, I'm playing up against another skill level 7. Now, if you watched the this is a fun match to watch. Every time I watch this match, I actually kind of enjoy watching this match, because if you saw the thumbnail to the live stream, this one's called One and Done, and you'll see why I titled it One and Done here in a second, because I think it's rather amazing. So let's go ahead and lag and see who's going to break first. This is another race to 5, just like my last one. I lagged better this time, but my opponent did better than I did. So I have to rack again. That's two games in a row that I've shown y'all where I've lost the lag. All right, so my opponent appears to do more of a classic break. I think he's striking the head ball. And what I mean by classic break is the cue ball is 1 diamond off center and then 2 diamonds up. Yeah, and he cuts the head ball and then tries to draw the cue ball back towards the middle of the table. That's what I refer to as the classic break. But you can see he broke dry. Right? Look at this beautiful spread. Right? What did I say before? You don't want to have a break like this and not drop a ball. Right? Because whoever's coming to the table is at a huge advantage. So you can see here, I automatically like stripes there, so it looks like I'm starting with the 10 ball with a little bit of draw. So that way I can shoot this 14 next. So that way I don't have to worry about this area here. Because all I'm going to do is slowly work my way up table. Now, can anybody tell me what they think the last ball is going to be if I do run the table? Go from the 14 over here to the 9 ball, because the 9 ball doesn't pass by the 7, but it does pass by the 6 to go up here into the corner pocket. Can anybody see what the last ball could possibly be that I might shoot at? And then let alone when you see this pattern here, that I'm choosing. Do you agree with the pattern, or would you do something different? And I do have a retrospect that I can put on this rack here, because now you can see I'm shooting at the 13 ball. I have a little bit of draw because I play a stop shot. And this is my fault for not looking at what kind of shot I would have had on this 11 ball, because now you see I'm looking at the 15. I see a lot of people are already guessing the 15 ball is going to be the last ball. But because I didn't come over here and look to see what kind of shot I would have on this 11 ball, that's why I started second guessing myself and at least glanced at the 15 ball. But I do decide to shoot the 11 ball next. So here would be a hitch in my pre-shot routine to where like I just didn't put enough planning into it. I thought a stop shot was appropriate, but when in reality, I should have made sure to go and look to see what my next shot was going to look like. So I play this shot with some topspin because I want the cue ball to come over here, hit the side rail, and then come out to be on what would be the good side of the shot line of the 12 ball, so that way I can drift over to be able to shoot the 15. But look where I'm at. Right? Y'all see my hand like go up in the air? Like I don't like where I'm at, because if I shoot this ball in, where does my cue ball go? This way. Well, watch what I do. Some bottom left spin. That's a pretty shot. But it's a shot that I shouldn't have had to take. It's a pretty shot, but it's a shot that I shouldn't have had to take. All right, so what happens after my opponent breaks dry? I run the table. One and done. Ta-da! Now, here's the retrospect. This right here was a critical moment. This shot right here. This shot could have ended everything. So, like, what could I have done differently? Still being that I should end with the 15 ball. I ended up playing a stop shot, which wasn't the best thing in the world. So the question is, should I have allowed the cue ball to roll to about right here, play the 12, and then play the 11 to get to the 15 like that? That's certainly a possibility. Should I have drawn back more to here, play the 12 like this, and do the same exact thing to play the 15? That's a possibility. So I see Kickshot Pool Gear is saying 11 in the side, but then that means my cue ball is going to drift towards this. So I have to make sure that I precisely hit the 13 ball, not tie it up with the 15, and then maybe my 12 ball could be a backup shot. Certainly a possibility to play the 11 in the side, but I think there's a little bit of risk that goes along with it. That would be my only concern about playing the 11 ball into the side pocket right now. All right, so personally, I think, yeah, if anything, I think I probably should have just let the ball roll. Right, it's easier to control a rolling cue ball than it is to control a drawing cue ball, because I could have easily overdrawn the ball. But just allowing the ball to drift forward is like, no matter what, I'm going to have some sort of shot, even if it means taking out the 15 ball and using the 12 ball, because I did see someone said that the 12 ball was going to be last. All right, so trying to allow the cue ball to drift somewhere in this area here probably was the better decision, even though what I originally did still worked. I just had to put in some serious work when I shot that 12 ball in. All right, so let's get to the next rack. So here, I'm still trying to do that pop break, but it doesn't work for me on this particular night, right? So like I said, you see me, I size up by aiming at the very bottom of the ball. You can see, at least here with the side view, you can see how angled my cue is. Like, look at the gap between the rail and my cue. Like, I'm really elevated on the ball, because what's happening is I'm kind of trying to skip the cue ball into the rack, so that way when it hits the rack, hopefully it's off of the table. That's what causes it to pop into the air. And then during my practice strokes, you're going to see me bring my tip up to about right here. And then on my final stroke, that's when I try to drop my elbow and straighten out my cue to get a hit like this. But sometimes I drop my elbow too much and I end up hitting above center, or you'll end up seeing that sometimes I don't line up completely center like I think I am. There's my cue raised, and then bam. See, the cue ball just comes straight back, hits the short rail, and then comes back up towards the middle of the table. Now, I did at least drop a ball, right? So that's at least a good thing. What was it? It looks like it was the 2 ball. Let's do this and that. Now, I have the 1 and the 5 over here, but I can't shoot them because of the 15. Can't shoot any of these because of the 8 ball. All I have is this 4 ball, really, I think. Oh, never mind. I could see the 1. I could see the 5 and the 1. I thought the 15 blocked me. Never mind. So I shot the 1. Bottom left spin. 2 rail position for the 5 ball. I think for the 5 ball. This is what I mean by, like, I can obviously shoot the 4 ball, but why do that when I have to come back down here for the 5 ball? I see there's questions about the table size. This is league, and league is typically, or at least in my area, league is typically played on 7-foot tables. I know there are some areas that play league on 8-foot tables and 9-foot tables, but in my area, here in the Central Texas area, we play on 7-foot tables. So that was shot with top right spin as I'm trying to get over here to play the 4 into the side pocket. Now, I still have a shot at the 4 in the side pocket, but it's a thin cut shot. Right? And so that means I can't really control my cue ball to get position on these guys. So what I'm trying to do at this point here is I want to play the 4 ball off of the 9 to go into the side. That allows me to get a fuller hit on the 4 ball. So that way I can just allow my cue ball to roll forward and then hopefully get position on these guys. Because if I do try to cut this in, well, then my cue ball is drifting like this towards this corner pocket. And I want to risk trying to control it from scratching when really playing this billiard shot, though it's a harder shot, it's easier for me to control the table. All right, so I think here all I do is just play this with some topspin as I try to billiard the 4 off of the 9. But I missed. And so you see how I was able to get my cue ball to go forward? I didn't even get the position that I wanted because I wanted to get position on the 6 or the 3 or anything, so I just missed it altogether. But to me, I just thought that that was the smarter shot to take in order for me to have better control of my cue ball and still get position on another ball. Now, that was from my break. We're now on 1 inning. And watch this. Let's see here. My opponent chooses the 13 ball. Kind of just stuns and gets a kiss off of my ball here. He has a shot at the 10 ball. He has a shot at the 9 ball. He has a shot at the 14 ball. Kind of has a shot at the 15 ball. Looks like he likes the 15 and makes me wonder if he's going to bump into the 11. Does bump into the 11. It's a little fortunate that they didn't tie up right here. Now it looks like he has a shot at the 10 ball. He can just, or is that the 12 ball? I think this is the 10. This is the 12. He can probably just roll the 12 in. He'll have automatic position for these two here. I don't think the angle is going to cause him to scratch. I don't think he has to worry about scratching in the side pocket. Yeah, kind of like that. Nice shot. Now, I like that my opponent decides to stop in his tracks and reevaluate whatever it is he has in mind. Right? He knows he can shoot these two, but he's trying to make sure what the heck is he going to do with these two. So I really like that my opponent just took a moment there to just reevaluate everything to make sure, like, Is he going to stick with whatever plan that he came up with before he started shooting? Or did he come up with a new plan after he stood there and paused? Because see, now he's coming back and looking again. So look at that. He decides not to shoot these. He's going for this 10 ball. 10 ball is going to cause the cue ball to come off the short rail automatically. It's a friendly bump off of the 8, though. Like, I don't think that was intentional. And he has position on the 14. I don't know. I think I would have stuck with these two, and then allowed these to be the last couple of balls that I was going to shoot at. This is a difficult cut shot and difficult to control to still have position on the last two stripes. Oh, what a shot on the 14 ball. So far, so good. Do you shoot the 9 here, or do you shoot the 11? He shoots the 9, draws back for the 11. You can see the angle that he has here on the 11 ball. That means his cue ball is drifting this way. So do you just drift over here and take your medicine, or do you drift over here and try to spin the cue ball back this way? Oh, look at that. He spun the cue ball back over here. What a shot. And then look at that. I had one inning at the table, and then I was done. 1-1. Okay, so my opponent's going to be doing the same break as before. Let's see how it works out for him this time. Ooh, scratches in the side pocket. Except this time we don't have a decent spread like we did last time. Let's see. I don't see the 1 ball on the table anymore. Now in APA, when you scratch on the break, you have cue ball in hand behind the head string. You don't have cue ball in hand anywhere like in BCA. Yeah, it looks like only the 1 ball was made. So what do y'all choose here, folks? Do y'all choose solids or stripes? I don't remember if this 7 ball goes because of this stripe that's right here. Like this is the biggest trouble spot for solids, and then clearly there's a combination here. So solids and stripes are almost equal in difficulty, right? Because the 2 ball blocks this 15 ball, and then there's this cluster here for the 5 and the 7. Robert Allison likes stripes. I do too. But do y'all see like how much time I'm actually taking? Now I know normally like you're not supposed to take too much time because like you don't want your opponents complaining that you're playing slow or whatever. I think in APA you're supposed to like, average like 45 seconds or like a minute per shot. But like I'm getting everything ready and then I'm just going to try to just fly right through the rack if I can. So I actually like stripes, and I'm going to start with the 14 ball here in the side pocket. You can see there I played that with a ton of top inside spin, so that way I can get this position here on the 12 ball. And why do I want position on the 12 ball? Because I want to break this 15 out. All right, so this is where you're going to see me play this with bottom left spin and try to break my 15 loose. See, and I got it, but now I have to worry about this. What the heck am I going to do here? That's also why I left these guys alone. Right? This is a combination that I can make from almost anywhere on the table. That's why I'm going for it now. I'm playing the combo. So this is my insurance shot. I think all I have is just a rolling cue ball here as I try to combo the 11 ball into the 9 ball, just like so. And so what I've already assessed here is I have two options. I can try to use the 10 ball to break out the 13 by playing the 10 in the side, or I can try to use the 15 ball. Because of where I'm at with the cue ball right now, playing this 11 ball, I am trying to pull the cue ball back for position on the 10. And it didn't get exactly where I want it to go, like right here, because this is a thinner cut shot than I would want. But look what the cue ball naturally will do. All right, so this is a pretty safe shot to take with this ball being a backup ball. I think all I do here is just roll this in with a touch of left spin, break my 15 ball out, or I'm sorry, my 13 ball out, and my 15 ball is a backup shot. So now I can just roll this ball in. I have automatic position on the 13. And I think from here I kind of just stun the cue ball in between the 8 and the 4. And my opponent had one chance at the table. And the rack's over. You see how this is working? My opponent broke on the first rack, didn't make anything. I ran out. I broke, couldn't run out. Then my opponent ran out. My opponent broke and scratched, and I ran out. See there, look how much control I lose on the cue ball. And I don't make a ball. Cue ball still somehow manages to land near the center of the table, which I think is funny. And that's finally 2 innings. So again, look at the spread. Right? This is a spread I would not want to give my any opponent. I don't care what your skill level is. Right? It's a wide open table. Let's see what my opponent likes here. He likes solids. Okay, so he starts with the 6. Looks like he has position for the 7. Probably just rolls the cue ball for the 7 to get position on the 1, maybe. Or the 5. Okay, so it's got to be for the 1. But then what? You go from the 1 to the 3? And then from the 3 to the 5? Yeah, that looks about right. And then from the 5 to the 4, maybe? Actually, that looks like a pretty sharp back cut angle. Is he going to be able to hold for the 5? Okay, he does. Still a rather thin cut shot there. Curious if he's going to run into my 10 ball, because that's what I would be trying to do, to stop the cue ball for the 4. Kind of like that, but clips the 10 ball, still manages to get position on the 4. The 4 automatically leads to the 2. All he has to do is just kind of roll this ball in. Oh, he hit that ball in. Never mind. He hit that with authority. Now it has to bridge over these 2 balls here. Should be able to just stun over for the 8 if he's able to. There we go. I like this. Whatever it was that he was uncomfortable about, he gets up, starts back over. I like it. Oh, what a shot. Look at that. 8 ball in the corner. And he takes it down. Look at that. We're on 5 racks so far and only 2 innings. Yeah, looks like he switches sides now. Let's see what happens here. Okay, it looks like a dry break, so I get to come to the table. So the question is going to be is, do I run the table again? Robert Allison, you're saying he moved the 15 ball before he shot. As long in APA, it's not all ball foul. So the only thing you have to worry about in APA is if the accidental moved ball comes in contacts with the cue ball, and if that happens, then that would actually be considered a foul. So if his cue like grazed the 2 ball or grazed my 15 ball before he shot, then it's not that big of a deal. Though I do understand what you're saying though. All right, so I come to the table here, and what do we got here? I took solids, so I see the 1 ball's gone, 7 balls gone. Looks like I'm shooting the 3 with some draw. So I power draw the cue ball back towards the middle of the table. What am I going to do with this 5 ball? That's what everybody should be wondering about. What am I going to do with this 5 ball? Right? It does me no good to shoot the 4, then the 2 and the 6 if I don't have a plan with the 5 ball. All right, so what do? I try to cut the 2 ball in to this pocket here because then the pathing of the cue ball allows me to break up the 5 ball. Now, I remember this part here. This was an interesting shot that I obviously must have misjudged. I have to cut the 4 ball. It's not a straight in shot. So that means my cue ball is going to run into the 14 ball. So you see I'm kind of elevated because I want to stun into the 14 ball and stop. But I don't stop. Right? It ends up glancing off of the 14 ball. And then now you finally get to see the first mistake of the match. Right? I can't see the 5 or the 6, so you're actually going to see me try to masse around the 12 ball to knock my 5 ball in. This is with what? I'm massing to my right, so like I can't indicate what a masse looks like on the cue ball diagram, but I am hitting on the right side of the cue ball. I at least make a legal hit, I just don't make the shot. And so finally, the first mistake of the match. Or I shouldn't say first mistake, because I think on rack 2 where I didn't run out, my opponent ran the table. But like there was the first like real good error of not playing the previous shot correctly and not getting position. Let's see. Dusty Tables, you're saying curious here. What happens if you move a ball, offer your opponent to move it back? They do, then contact is made. Still a foul? Well, balls cannot be placed back until everything comes to a stop. And so there was a previous match that I reviewed where my opponent shot, accidentally moved my ball, and the cue ball passed through where my ball was resting. It was clear as day. You could see that the cue ball was going to run into my ball, but it didn't. It got moved out of the way. And because the cue ball did not touch my accidental moved ball, even though I thought it was a foul, like if you go back and watch that last live stream where I reviewed my last match, you'll see that we ruled it as a foul because I went and asked a third person. I even offered my opponent, do we want to check this in the rule book after I got the third opinion from another skillful player, and we ruled that it was a foul. We later found out that because the cue ball didn't contact my accidental moved ball or the accidental moved ball, it's not a foul. My opponent got position that he needed because of that accidental moved ball. Otherwise, it would have ran into my ball and he would not have gotten position. And so what was supposed to happen, according to APA rules, was my ball was supposed to be put back as close as possible to where it originally was, and my opponent would still be allowed to shoot. That's what was supposed to happen, but it didn't happen. So what I ended up doing was I timestamped that particular segment and posted it on APA's Facebook page and says, hey, we ruled it a foul here, but we've basically found out that according to your rules, because of the way it's worded, it's not a foul. And I was basically suggesting to APA that they might want to change the wording of that rule, because I would hate to see someone lose a national title over a situation like that. $10,000 and a national title if that situation were to come up. Right? Because I had plenty of people saying like, well, you're supposed to follow the rules, because I was the one that committed the foul, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, you are correct, but I want you to say that you have that same exact opinion when that scenario happens to you and costs you your national title. Right? So all I was suggesting, and I gave my opponent the opportunity for us to validate the rule calling. We just didn't, and we both agreed that it was a foul. And to this day, we all still agree that it should be a foul. But according to the rule book, or according to the rules, it's not a foul. Now, as I was going through that whole entire scenario, we pretty much just missed the entire rack here. My opponent was not able to run out, makes the mistake, and then I'm back at the table here. I cut the 5-ball in. Looks like I have position on the 8-ball, so all of these balls are gone. So maybe next time I start going on a long explanation like that, I need to pause the video. I think this is what's left on the table. And I make the 8-ball. Take the lead 3-2. We pretty much blew by that rack. So, but Dusty, I hope that answers your question, bud. Now that break, it looks like I almost got the cue ball to squat, but then a ball came and knocked the cue ball out of the way. I did make a solid. So I am solids on this one. Got my work cut out for me on this one. The 6-ball is guarded by the 15-ball. Looks like the 2-ball here is blocked in a lot of different directions, unless I want to go all the way down here. There you can see I'm checking to see if the 6-ball can go past the 15 and the 9 to go here into the corner pocket. Jeff J, you're asking about the cloth. This cloth here is called Andy cloth, which I think is supposed to be similar to Simonis, but obviously not quite. So the cloth is fairly fast. I don't think it compares to like Simonis 860 though. I think it's a little bit slower than Simonis 860, but it is fairly fast. All right, so you can see I started off with the 5-ball here, but now I got to really figure out what the heck am I going to do with the 2 and what the heck am I going to do with the 6. I have the 3-ball here into the side pocket. It looks like maybe I'm trying to stun the cue ball to get position on the 4 or the 7. Now see, actually at this point here, I probably should stop making balls. I probably should just try to improve the position of another ball, like knocking this 12-ball over here by this rail, or knocking this 2-ball over here by this, I think I called it the 12-ball, but knocking this 2-ball over here by the rail and getting it closer to this pocket, because in that way I can hopefully use it to break out my 6. But see, I don't think I do that, which is usually something I should be able to learn as a lesson here. I think I go into kill mode here and try to run the entire rack. Yeah, so there, I remember I shot the 7, and I remember specifically now that right here, I'm going to try to hit this 4-ball in, get my cue ball to go over here, and then spin it back into the 6. This is why I'm going to have left spin on the cue ball. And I didn't quite get the result that I was looking for. But now, do you remember the previous shot where I shot up? I had the 5 and the 6 here, and I shot at a ball over here that was elevated, and I was supposed to stun into my opponent's ball to hold the cue ball, and I didn't. This is the same exact thing that I'm about to try to do. This is the same exact thing that I'm about to try to do here, because I can back cut that 2 ball into this pocket here, and I want my cue ball to run into the 14 ball, so that way hopefully my cue ball will stay somewhere right here and give me a shot at the 6. All right, so I'm looking at the tangent line of how I can shoot the 2 and where the cue ball is going to go, and I got to make sure I manipulate the cue ball to run flat into the 14 ball, because if I glance off of it like I did the last time, I'm possibly not going to get a shot at my 6 ball. All right, so here it looks like I'm going to try to draw off the 2 and hopefully run flat into the 14 ball. That's the intention. Let's see what happens. I made the ball, but I glanced off the 14 ball, and I'm hooked. But I do end up trying to go for the win here. There's no sense in me trying to kick the ball this way, because where's the 6 ball going to go? I do try to kick a field goal at that to get the cue ball to go in between my opponent's, I think this is the 12 ball and the 13 ball, to be able to pocket my ball into this corner pocket here. Okay, the field goal's good, but I end up hitting the 6 ball on the wrong side. Mike Thomas, you're asking me what's my preferred league, APA, or I believe you meant BCA, not PCA. You want Bravo Charlie Alpha, not Papa Charlie Alpha. Um, I I'm fine with either one of them. In all actuality, I mean BCA is more skillful because you have to call the ball and call the pocket. You don't have to rely on slop shots. But like I just like to play, and APA is more for your amateurs. There are some amateurs, quote unquote, that play in the BCA as well, but usually more skillful players. You'll find more skillful players in the BCA leagues than you will in the APA leagues. But I mean, to me, it's pool, right? So like, I just try to play as much as I can, especially for what's in my area. Now, my opponent attempted to do a combo and did not make the combo, but what the heck do I got? Now, at the start of the first match, you heard me talk about how I'm trying to do the pop break because of a trick that I learned from Tony by lining up the bottom of the cue ball, the tip to the bottom of the cue ball to the bottom of the object ball. And what you're about to see me do here is another trick or a measuring system that I learned from Tony when he was here. This is a one rail kicking system. There's already a couple of videos out on this one. I'm eventually going to do one of my own. And so what I'm doing here is I'm looking to see where the ghost ball is to make this 6 ball into this pocket. So what I'm going to do is draw a line through what I believe to be the ghost ball to the rail. Then what you're going to see me do is pivot the butt of my cue to where between this spot here that I've identified as the center of the ghost ball in order to make this 6 ball go here. When I pivot the butt of my cue, I'm going to pivot it halfway in between the cue ball and the object ball to somewhere right around here. So watch me do that. Something like that. So now I have a line that looks like this. And what I'm going to do is parallel shift this line over the cue ball. Something like that. And so that is hopefully going to allow me to be able to hit the 6 ball where I want to hit the 6 ball in order to make it into this corner pocket here. When I do this system, I use only a rolling cue ball because just like with any other banker kicking system, the speed and spin at which you hit the cue ball matters greatly. And this particular system doesn't require any spin. So I just have a rolling cue ball and watch what happens. Almost made it. Almost made it. It's a pretty darn accurate kicking system. You can at least hit the ball. Like if I would have started my measurement by going through the center of the object ball and then doing the same exact steps, I'm going to hit the ball. But I'm trying to make the ball. So that's why I draw that first line through the center of what I perceive to be the ghost ball that allows me to make that 6 ball. You're going to see me do it a couple of times in this particular rack. And I think at least every time I do that measuring system, I at least hit the ball. Devin Shannon, jumps are allowed in the APA League. It's just that you have to use your playing cue. You cannot use a specialty cue. You can't use a jump cue. What's up, Bang Time Pool? You like the kicking system? It's really good. I need to actually spend some time and actually like produce a recorded video of how it works. Like I said, there's already some that are out there. I just obviously want to do my own little twist on it. All right, so my opponent has a small problem right here. Let's see how he decides to solve it. That was interesting. I see a safety coming up here. All right, wouldn't y'all play safe here? Paradox Prophet, you are correct. You can't even use your breaking cue because that's the only specialty cue that the APA allows. You're allowed to have a breaking cue and you're allowed to have a shooting cue. You can only use the breaking cue to break, and then you have to obviously use your playing cue to play. You cannot switch to your breaking cue in order to do a jump shot. Let's see here. What is my opponent thinking about? I would think this has to be a safety here. Right? Just hide me behind the 13 ball. What's he doing? He's not playing safe with topspin. Oh, holy crap! What a shot! Wow! What a shot! Gets position on the 14 ball. Wait, why is he shooting at the... Well, I guess he's flat on the 14. He wants to shoot the 13 so that way the cue ball hits the side rail and comes back out. I don't know. I think I would shoot the 14 ball and then bank the 13. I don't think I would risk this. This is a hard shot from the corner pocket. Oh, but look at that. He gets lucky. Look at that. I can't see my 6 ball. I have to kick again. And it doesn't look like I can kick this way. The 13 ball prevents me from kicking. So watch. You're about to see me do the system again. All right, so I try to draw a line through the center of what I perceive to be the ghost ball that allows me to kick this ball here, and then try to bend the back of my cue to where I can see that I have a line that goes from where my tip is to halfway in between, and then I shift that line over the cue ball to give me a spot on the rail to be able to hit with a rolling cue ball, no side spin. And so usually if I do this correctly, at the very least, I'm going to score a hit. All right, so that one, I cut the ball. So what the heck did I do wrong? Did I accidentally have some side spin? I don't think so. Did I possibly mismeasure? That's a huge possibility because I was measuring the length of the table instead of the width of the table. I could have possibly hit it too hard, so therefore the outbound angle is shortened rather than opening up. So there's a couple of things that could still go wrong with that shot there. But with that measuring system, it's a pretty darn accurate system if you at least don't want to foul, at the very least. Oh, he tried to bank that with some authority. What kind of leave is he going to give me? All right, this looks pretty good. Should be able to cut the 6 ball into the side pocket, have the cue ball roll to the short rail, and then come back out for a position on the 8. I would think this is just a rolling cue ball, no side spin. Kind of like that, but clearly I hit this just a little too hard. Now, when I play this 8 ball, watch my cue ball. Notice what I do with the cue ball. One, I tried to play a drag shot. I missed the shot. Okay, fine. But look where my cue ball's at. I'm protecting the cue ball at the same time. Rather than trying to make the ball and watch my cue ball go 1, 2, 3, and then come down here where my opponent might have a shot. All right, so I made the shot a little bit more difficult by playing a drag shot, so that way I can hit it just a little bit harder because I didn't want to just roll the cue ball. I end up missing the shot, but the cue ball's protected at the same time. So that way, if my opponent wins this match, fine. He earned it. Especially with whatever the heck he's doing here. I don't know why he's laying his cue down on the table like this. I don't know what shot he's preparing for. But if he manages to make his 13 ball, he's clearly going to have a shot at the 8 ball. And see, here's another thing that APA differs from most other leagues. You're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to just lay your cue on the table. Like, your hand has to be on your cue at all times. If you look it up in the WPA rules, that's where you'll see, like, when you use your cue to measure, your hand has to be on it at all times. You cannot let go of the cue. But APA doesn't do that. What's he trying to do? He must have been trying to 4-rail that ball in. 1, 2, 3, 4 into this corner pocket. That must be what he was trying to do. But he leaves me a straight in shot on the 8 ball, and I'm now on the hill. Because at that point in time, he has to go for it. Right? Where's the safest spot he could have left the cue ball? Nowhere on that one. All right, so this time I'm on the hill. I do remember that I'm on the hill this time, so I do try a second ball break, and this one's funny. So now when I do a second ball break, I'm actually using a little bit of stun left. I used to use a lot of bottom right. Now I just use stun left. Watch this break, though. This is funny. Y'all see that? I made a ball. I made a stripe. See this little track right here of balls that don't move? And then the 2 ball, like, look at that. Like, the 1 ball didn't even budge. Why do y'all think that is? Because I would have to think that there's a gap between the 1 ball and the second row. Like, that's the only way I can think that something like that can happen. I know my opponent didn't do it on purpose. Right? We've been having good racks all game, like balls going everywhere, wide spreads and stuff. But like when I saw this break, I kind of just chuckled because now I get to play straight pool. Right? So you see, I play the 14 ball, and what do I try to do? I try to open up the cluster. All right, this is pretty much a straight pool rack to me. After all the times, if anybody's been following me knows that I've been playing a ton of straight pool lately. So that's exactly how I try to treat this rack and see if can I manipulate this entire rack, continue to open up the cluster and get shots at the same time. So watch the way I choose each of the shots from here. So you can see it looks like I'm going to cut the 9 ball into the side pocket here. Did I use right spin or left spin? I think it's left spin. Nope, that's right spin. All right, look where my cue ball is going, and look what obviously I overrolled it. I wanted the cue ball to stop right here because you see what I'm doing? I'm looking at the 12 ball. Why? Because my cue ball is going to run right into this cluster. And I just end up undercutting the ball. All right, so the whole entire time I tried to play straight pool on that one there. All right, so my opponent still has some clusters that he has to deal with, so let's see what he does. Starts with the 2-ball. You can see here, like, the first, like, 4 or 5 racks was that whole one and done type of thing, where these last couple of racks, there's been, some back and forth. A couple of errors made on both parts from both players. All right, what's my opponent going to do here? He's glancing at, or he's taking a look at this 3-ball right now. But what's he going to do here? See, at this point in time, I think anything and everything is a little bit risky. So I probably would have just shot the 6-ball into the rail and bank it over here and get my cue ball to go over here as well and try to tuck it behind the 8-ball. See, I think he just tried to bank it and get position on the 1-ball. Now it kind of works out for him, right? Because like this is still okay, right? The only ball I can see is the 10-ball, but I'd rather my cue ball be over here. Like I wouldn't try to make the 6-ball at all. I would have just tried to place my cue ball right here. And so I try to play offensively and defensively at the same time here with the shot that you're about to see. Play just a rolling cue ball because I'm trying to carom the 10-ball off of my opponent's 3-ball over towards this pocket here. Just like that. Because look where the 3-ball is going, and then look where I leave my cue ball. Now, ideally, I wanted the 3-ball to be right here. So that way the only ball my opponent can see is the 4-ball, which causes him to open my 13-ball up. I just didn't hit it hard enough to get the 3-ball over here. So he gets a free shot at this 3-ball. I don't think he shoots at the 4. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't tell. Yeah. To me, that's the smarter choice. Leaving this alone to where I have to deal with it. Rather than going for a 4-13-1 combo. Now, if anybody's familiar with the double the distance measuring system, I totally blow this one. Meaning that I must have mismeasured. All right, so here's where I want to hit. I want to hit right here for a chance to make the 14-ball. This is another system that you're supposed to be using a rolling cue ball. Oh, never mind. I royally screwed up because I hit here. I don't know why I pointed here and then hit here. So that's why I ended up missing the shot altogether. So like clearly that was my mistake. Hey, that was a good shot on the 3-ball. Now, what do you do here, though? Like, are you going to try to make the 6 and break this stuff up at the same time? That's a pretty risky shot. He's going for it. Looks like he got the breakout. He got the breakout. Has a decent shot at the 1. Let's see how he gets on the 4. Devin Shannon, you're asking, is it easy to jump with a playing cue? Depends on the tip that you have. And my cues have soft tips on them, which actually makes it harder to jump. Because most jump cues will have some form of phenolic tip on it, or some really, really hard plastic tip. Jumping with leather tips, for me, personally, is a little bit more difficult. I'd rather, if I'm going to jump with my playing cue has to have a medium tip or a hard tip in order for me to jump with a full cue. Now, my opponent undercuts that ball, but it's kind of good because it blocks my 11 ball here, so I got to figure out what am I going to do with this. All right, so let's see here. It looks like I've got some bottom right spin on the cue ball. Did I change my mind? What am I doing? Let's see. All my opponent has left is the 4 and the 8, so these balls need to be gone. I need to get better at doing this interaction stuff with the balls disappearing. Let's see. I do believe this is bottom. Oh, no, that was top left spin. All right, so yeah. So let's go back and look at this. This is what was supposed to happen. And I just botched it up, you can tell. The cue ball should have gone like this, right? Because here's the shot line to this ball. And as long as I land on this side of the shot line, then what can I do? I can cut this ball in and then draw my cue ball over to this area to shoot my 11 ball here. which makes this my last ball. That was the intention. But you can see I wasn't happy with the result that I got. Right, the cue ball is spinning. And I pretty much land pretty much on the shot line. Like I'm almost as straight in as I possibly can be here. So I have options that I can do here. I can roll the cue ball forward to try to get some sort of angle on this ball, play this ball into this corner pocket and get position over here. I can try to power draw it, right? That's what you see me do here. I can try to power draw off this ball and get position on the 13 to get position over here for the 11. But then I saw this. Nothing but topspin. I get a little lucky here. And I managed to bump into my ball and have a shot at it. I mean, look at the force of the cue ball rolling. You see the hesitation the cue ball has before it even starts to move? Like how fast it's spinning in place? Like I said, a little lucky to have a shot at it. I mean, I at least saw that I was going to hit the ball, but the fact that I have a shot at it, I think is lucky. Devin Shannon, you're asking, is what illegal? Oh, okay, never mind. I already answered your question. So then again, with a topspin hit on the cue ball, I'm able to play my ball, so that leaves all the way down to these. Get position on this ball here, and I do believe I think here I don't bother messing with the side pocket. That's why you see me bridging from here. So instead of putting bottom right spin, I put a little bit of top right spin. Let the spin pull the cue ball back over to this area here, staying above the side pocket, just like that. So that way I can shoot the 8-ball in this corner pocket for the win. And there we have it. I managed to take it down 5-2 after that nice back and forth for the first like 4 or 5 racks between my opponent there. So I really don't have much that I can say for my opponent. I mean, we were going neck and neck, but then right there towards the end, he managed to make a few more mistakes than I did, and I just capitalized on those mistakes. I'm not entirely sure what kind of advice I can offer my opponent. I thought he played great. Like I said, I was just able to capitalize on those mistakes. All right, so you see when I change the resolution of my camera that you see these black bars that are on the side here because it's no longer 1920 by 1080. So when I switch to this view, I change the resolution to 1920 by 1080 so that way you can see everything. You don't have the black bars here on the side. But when I switch to my other view, the 1920 by 1080 doesn't fit well in that small box. If I attempt to shrink this view into that small little box, then I look stretched. And so that's why I do this. When I eventually replace this camera here with a Logitech Brio, because this is a C922X, and this is the default that it comes with. When I eventually switch this to a Logitech Brio like I have in my garage, then I won't have to bother with changing the resolution of the camera. It'll stay the same. Okay, so that's pretty much going to wrap things up for tonight. So unless anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Then I'm pretty much going to call it quits and then probably go watch some television and relax for the night. But what do y'all think? I hope what I'm able to show when you watch me make the decisions that I make, whether they're good or bad. And then, of course, if they are bad decisions because, like, I don't run out or I miss a shot or I don't get the position that I'm wanting on the next shot, we're able to deduce, like, where my mistake actually was. Like, was it the previous shot? Did I twist my arm at the wrong time and not hit the cue ball the way that I wanted? Did I choose the wrong pattern? Whatever I can find where my faults are in my own match that help me become a better player. In doing so, hopefully helps you become a better player as well. That's why I like doing this stuff. Somebody asked, where's Zelda? Zelda is right behind me. Oh my goodness. Zelda's been right behind me the entire time. Zelda's right here. Hi. For those that love to see this chunk of a cat here. Oh my goodness. What happened? He almost fell. But Zelda's right here. I actually just woke him up. He was taking a nap. Jeff J, you remember when I said that I lost a match when I was up 4-0? It wasn't a race to 5. It was a race to 5-4. And my opponent came back and beat me 4-4. That was to qualify for the APA regional event to have a shot at Las Vegas. And so, like, to me, it wasn't about the nerves. Obviously, until it was Hill. I chalk that loss up to switching strategies. Because, as I mentioned before, I was playing very conservatively all the way up until the very end. And when I was up 4-0, I switched modes into, like, let's end this. And like I said, I was going for shots that I shouldn't have gone for and made crucial mistakes where I scratched, and my opponent was able to basically catch up off of those mistakes, and then in the long run ended up winning. So, like I said, it was a very humbling experience for myself to know that there was no reason for me to change plans. I should have just stayed in conservative mode, and I more than likely could have won 5-0 and then be qualified to play in the regional event, which I think is in October. I think. I'm not entirely sure. But I missed out on my chance this year, so we'll just wait for next year. Hopefully, sooner or later, I'll be able to get back on maybe on a 9-ball team, so that way I can probably start having some 9-ball videos to review for everybody. But it's a little difficult being a skill level 9 and then being on a APA 9-ball team, because when you play a roster, you can only play up to 23 points. I take up more than a third of that, being a skill level 9, so it just makes it a little hard. I once had a 9-ball team, except all my players that are on that team that I've trained, all their skill levels have gone up to where I can't afford to be on the team anymore. So I've passed the leadership role onto my higher skill level players that are still on that team. They now captain the team. They made it all the way to cities and did fairly well, but just fell short from getting to the semifinals. But they still did really well, all things considered. I'm super proud that my team, without me, was able to get to the city event for teams in 9-ball. Just fell short at the city event. So hopefully they can learn from the experience and figure out what they can do better next time. Robert Allison, you like my thought process and shot selections? You think my pattern play is pretty solid? Thanks, man. I really do appreciate that. Like I said, all I can do is just take what I see here and continue to try to improve upon it, and decide whether or not, if it's, like I said, as long as I'm able to figure out if the pattern that's in front of me is runnable or not, that's obviously going to tell me whether or not if I'm going to go for the run or make a ball or two and then play some sort of safety. It just really depends. There was a point in time where I tried to run out everything, but then as time has gone by, I've gotten a little bit more conservative about it, to where in some of my previous live streams, you can see where, like, I'll make a ball or two and then purposely miss because I'll play some sort of safety, and then let my opponent try to get out, and they don't, and then I end up running out from there, which is pretty much what I did at that regional qualifier. But like I said, I switched modes when I could just taste it. I was like at the 10-yard line, right there, out right there at the finish line. It's like all I had to do was just take one step forward, and I just rushed things, and it ended up costing me the match. Okay, well, I don't really see any questions, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and bow out for the evening. So I want to thank everybody that's been popping in and out of the stream here. I see that I have 84 of you lovely people left, so I want to say thank you for making it here to the end. Mike Thomas, you're saying this is the first time you've seen this live stream and you like it, so that's awesome. Considering that you like it, then maybe consider subscribing to my channel, because this is stuff that I do more often. So anybody that's here that's new for the first time, if you like what you saw, obviously consider subscribing to the channel, because I am trying now, as well as I have a live stream that I call Road to 100, and that's where I'm trying to run 100 balls in straight pool without missing. So far, the best I've been able to do is 79. There is a recorded video of that on my YouTube channel. But while I'm trying to do a road to 100 in straight pull, I also have a road to 100,000 subscribers. And if I can ever get to that 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to try to do some sort of big giveaway for that one, because I will have earned the YouTube Select plaque, which I think will be fantastic, at least for someone like myself, because I do YouTube as a hobby. As I mentioned at the very beginning, I'm a software developer by trade. That's my 9 to 5. And so when I have free time at the end of the day, that's when I try to do live streams. That's when I try to do recorded content. And anybody that knows how meticulous I am in making my videos take a long time to make. All right, so while I'm working 8 hours a day, I could also be working 8 more hours trying to create a video, recording the footage, editing the footage and stuff, and obviously publishing it to YouTube. So this is all a hobby for me, but as a hobby, if I can acquire 100,000 subscribers, that's just going to be super awesome. I mean, I would be so thrilled. I don't even know. I don't know like what I would do as far as a celebration. I mean, there's going to be a giveaway because I've done giveaways before, so you can rest assured that. And this one's going to be a big giveaway. I just don't know what it's going to include yet. So if you're new to this is the first time you've ever seen my YouTube channel, and from this live stream you've liked this enough, maybe consider subscribing. If for whatever reason maybe the live stream just didn't do it enough for you, then check out some of my recorded content. I have lessons on here that teach you certain aspects of the game, like how to brake, how to shoot, how to use top spin, bottom spin, side spin, how to jump, how to kick, all kinds of different things. And see if any of those videos meet your fancy or help you improve your game. And from those videos, then maybe consider subscribing to the channel, because this is stuff that I just do more often, or I try to do as often as I can, obviously pending my work schedule. So yeah, that's really great. I really do appreciate that, Mike Thomas. Let's see. Jeff J, you say pattern play is what you teach your lower skill level players. I teach them that all the time, but then once they get to the point to where they can start seeing the patterns, then I start teaching them strategy. Because they might be able to see the patterns, but they currently don't have the cue ball control to execute the pattern. So that's when I have to start teaching them strategy, to where they'll know, like, I see the pattern, but I know I currently can't do it. So therefore, I'm going to play this shot here, and then I'm going to play some sort of safety, and then go from there. Jeff J, you want to know how many subscribers I have at the moment? Ron Johnson pretty much has it correct. It's like 80,000 something. It's 80,257. Right, so I've got quite a ways to go to get 19,743 more. All right, so I gotta produce content, I gotta do live streams, I gotta make recorded content. So it's gonna be a long journey, but it's certainly a journey that's achievable, because never in my lifetime would I have thought, after being on YouTube now actively for about 3 years, that I'd be where I'm at. So it's amazing to be this far. I have no intentions of stopping, but the journey to continue to climb has dramatically slowed down, which is to be expected, because I don't produce as much content as I used to, because I get more busy with work. And so the better handle I can get on work to where I have more free time, then I can produce more content for everybody, whether it's live streaming or even recorded content, one or the other. So yeah, like I said, I want to thank everybody for being here. Thanks to everybody that comes in and out, and if anybody watches the recast of this, thanks at least for watching it, especially after I go through and timestamp everything, so you know where each match ends, or starts and begins, or starts and ends, and then where each rack will actually start. It makes it easier to navigate through the live stream rather than watching what is going to be now almost a 3-hour live stream, right? So you don't have to watch it from beginning to end. You can actually just jump around from place to place. What do you want? Oh, you brought your ball in here. Here. He brought his ball in here. Let me see if I can get him to chase it. You want it? Oh, he wants it. Go get it. Oh, I hope everybody saw that. If anything, give the stream a thumbs up for that. If they just saw him slide into the wall, because he gets no traction on my vinyl planks there, and just slides all over the place when he's chasing after his ball. All right, but nonetheless, I'm not going to banter on anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the stream out for the night. So again, thank you all for being here, and have a good night.